Good morning, grinders. Welcome to Guys in a Garage. I'm here today with, hopefully I say it right, Eric Foti.
That is correct.
Awesome.
You got it. You know how many times that one is butchered? Oh, man, I've heard it all. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anything from Foti to Fotio to, I mean, it's been everything.
It's not even an O at the end. How do you
No, there's
Fotio?
not. I don't know. And then switching out the T with the D and making it hard D. Like I said, I've heard just about anything.
Yeah,
So.
well, mine's Bourgeois. So.
Bourgeois.
Yeah.
All right. I just tell everybody kind of remember it as, you're buying a 40 at the store. It's Foti.
Foti.
Buy a 40 ounce.
There we go. Used to work with a guy, his name was Foti.
Foti. All right.
Yeah, and so we said the same thing. Foti.
Yep. Yeah, it's Italian. I can't help it. I guess it actually originally was Fotigliano.
Fotigliano?
Fotigliano. And then when my grandparents moved to Boston, they switched it. Shortened it.
Shortened it down.
Yeah, shortened it down.
Man.
Yeah.
Fotigliano, though, that's awesome.
I know. I would have much rather had that.
Right?
That would have been rad.
That sounds like, like an Italian MMA fighter's name or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. Instead, I get stuck with the four-letter word.
Yeah.
Foti. Yeah.
You
But
got robbed.
What do I do?
Robbed.
What do I do?
Yeah, mine's, I'm told it's like a part French Canadian, but the, little bit of like Cajun in there.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Even it could be worse.
Yeah.
We could all have
be.
worse names.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. I don't complain too much when I hear some other ones. Like, really? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That must have been rough as a kid.
Yeah, nobody can ever pronounce mine though.
Yeah.
And every single time when I say it, like if I go to some office or something where I'm paying a bill and some lady looks at me like, and I'm like, don't even try, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
I've only ever had one person that's ever done it correctly. One.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She must have been some kind of like an English major or something.
Must have been. Yep.
Mastered languages.
Lucky you.
This is really good scotch, man.
It is really good scotch. I'll have to keep on getting this one. I bounce around between so many different ones trying to find just the right one. And, unfortunately, the more expensive you get, the better it tastes. And yeah.
Is this DALL-E?
DALL-E, which is a really good brand. It's pretty known.
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually had the 15-year, which is why I got that one. And you can definitely taste the difference.
I usually do like the Glenlivet 14 or 18.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one.
This last one that I just got was the Glenfiddich 14, and it's pretty good, but it actually has quite more of a burn at the end.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's super smooth.
Yeah, this is super smooth. That's dangerous.
Found another good office scotch. Apparently.
Office scotch.
Yep. Hey, every business owner has to have office scotch.
It's the best place to keep it.
It is. Yep.
So you are the proprietor of IVNV?
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
It's here in Coeur d'Alene?
Yep.
So what do you guys do?
We do nutrient infusions, both for lifestyle, what we consider lifestyle. We separate in between lifestyle and therapeutics. So your lifestyle infusions are anybody that's just generally healthy and they want a boost of energy or boost their immune support. So they'll come in and get a bag full of a bunch of vitamins and kind of fend off everything that's going on around here and get that boost of energy. But then what we really focus heavily on is the therapeutic side, which is your chronic illness. So cancer, Lyme disease, any kind of autoimmune, iron support. So we do iron infusions. So really doing something completely different than what the traditional Western medicine is, giving your body the ability to heal itself based off of nutrients and different coenzymes and compounds safely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, you're trying to build people's immune systems up more naturally versus pumping them full of antibiotics and anything else that people usually tend to lean towards.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the big difference between what we do and what you see plastered all over all the commercials is the pharmaceutical industry in general wants to keep you sick.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to watch one of their commercials of some new drug that they have out, and at the end is the whole list of all these complications if you're going to take this drug. That should be a sign to everybody that this country is just not where it needs to be, and they really don't care about your health. They care about keeping you sick because you being sick is profitable.
Right.
Where if we would just go back 100 years and look at the data, you're going to find that there's not people that have high blood pressure. You don't have a whole lot of cancer. You don't have diabetes. You don't have all these other different things because they're being supported by nutrients because our food wasn't adulterated 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And so when you start removing all those nutrients from your daily diet, and then you're feeding yourself all these pharmaceuticals and environmental toxins and everything else that's going on, that's when you're susceptible to all those different things. So really what we're doing is replacing what you should have had in the beginning. Give your body the ability to heal itself. And there's so many different things. I mean, whether it was God's design or the universe's design, whatever you believe in, we were all made to live based off of our nutrient intake. And once you can build your levels up, the chances of you getting those kind of chronic conditions are lessened significantly.
Yeah.
So that's our whole goal, is to keep people healthy.
But you wouldn't necessarily call it like homeopathic.
No, not homeopathic. It's more naturopathic.
Yeah.
Most of our referrals come from naturopathic physicians. There is some Western medicine doctors that are finally realizing the importance of nutrient support, but keep in mind, it's very difficult for them to refer over, because then they're judged by the medical community.
Right.
It's just not in their wheelhouse. But naturopathic physicians are becoming more and more popular.
Oh, yeah.
They care about nutrition. They really want to find the underlying cause of what's ever going on with you. And most times that is going to be supplemented with what we do, which is infusions or injections or even peptides.
Yeah, and I mean that's one that I've been going to for quite some time now. She's naturopathic, and she's a great lady. She's she's, since I started going to her about 2 years ago, she has gotten me on like the straight and narrow. I've felt better in the last 2 years than I probably have in 20.
Yep. Because she's not trying to mask your symptoms with medications.
Yeah. She wants to figure out exactly what the problem is, and what it takes for me to get healthy. She's not just spouting off like, oh, well, you need to do this and you need to do this from some textbook. She's looking at my body type and what I need and figuring all that stuff out. And I mean, she's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably know who it is.
Probably, yeah.
Probably do. Yeah, we
can talk about that later.
Yeah, we work real closely with all the local naturopaths in this area, and our medical director is a naturopath, but he's the guy is a whiz. He's a specialist naturopath, so he's very in tune with what different kind of cancers are doing and what kind of treatment on the natural side you can do to alleviate some of the symptoms. And he also works that in with traditional medicine as well. So if you're someone that really believes in chemotherapy or radiation, well, we're still going to support your immune system the natural way so that you can deal with those toxins better. So, I mean, that is one of the benefits to the right kind of naturopath, is they understand that there is some benefits to Western medicine, especially when it comes to cancer, but they really want to be there to support you through that, because without that, you're pretty much just poisoning yourself and crossing your fingers that it's going to eradicate you of cancer. Yeah. Where we can really alleviate any kind of symptoms, especially from chemotherapy. You're going to feel a lot better, because chemotherapy depresses your immune system so hard. Yeah. And it truly is a toxic substance that you're putting in your body. Yeah, you're poisoning yourself in hopes that you're not going to die, which is, it's so weird. Yeah, and it's going after even your healthy cells. Yeah. That's the big difference between what we can do versus that, is we have different therapies. If you're someone that doesn't want to do anything with chemotherapy or radiation, we can do some natural supplements like high-dose vitamin C that directly attack cancer cells but leave the healthy ones alone. Mm-hmm. And it's been a tried and true method for decades of treating with high-dose vitamin C to eradicate cancer. So, and there's some other compounds as well that have been proven to kill cancer cells. So we do both. If you don't believe in anything with Western medicine and you don't want to go down that route, we're still going to treat you with what we do know works, but we got to be careful with the word treat. Right. That's a bad word in our industry. And that's when you have the FDA looking at you and saying, no, you're not treating, we're treating. So it's definitely that balance of making sure that you don't use certain words, especially with your marketing. But the reality is this stuff is treating you. It is killing cancer cells, or it is, for whatever, autoimmune disease that you have, we are providing your body with the right nutrients to combat these illnesses. Yeah. So. Yeah. Like you were talking about with the commercials, it's so ridiculous. I don't see how anybody sees an appeal for something that they see on TV that says, oh yeah, we'll help with your arthritis. Oh, but by the way, your eyes are going to hurt and you're going to bleed from your asshole. Yep. Those are always the fun ones. It's like, yeah, that sounds like something I want to do. I want anal discharge, when really I'm just, I was dealing with migraines and those suck and I would like them to go away, but do I really want to deal with anal discharge at the same time? It's sickening. And the reason it's designed that way is, they have this one medication that may get rid of whatever ailment that they claim that it's going to get rid of, or at least mask. But now you have all these side effects that are going to come behind it. And guess what? They have a drug for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why you end up with these patients, as you call them, polypharm, where they're basically their own pharmacy, because they have 20 different drugs that they're taking, and one is designed to combat the other's negative symptoms.
Yeah.
It's a racket is what it is.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. So, and, me being in the fire service for the past 23 years, that's all I've ever watched, is going into people's houses and, poor grandma feels like crap and she's wondering why. And she hands you a grocery bag full of all these medications. And you're like, well, no wonder. Some of these aren't even supposed to be mixed, but yet you were prescribed them by the same doctor. So there's just no checks and balances.
Which seems to happen more often than you would think it does.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I don't get that. I like to believe that a lot of doctors today, they just don't know better. Like they talk about and they prescribe all the medications and all this stuff in a way that was taught to them. Like that's what they learned. And because they're doctors, they kind of stay in that forum of other doctors and the FDA and the government regulated health specs and all this stuff. Yeah. But like you were saying, there's more and more now that are kind of leaning more towards or opening up to naturopathy and stuff like that. They're referring people to you. Yep.
COVID was the big eye opener for a lot of people, which is why you saw a lot of people transitioning over to more the naturopathic realm as opposed to Western medicine, because they saw what Western medicine was doing during the COVID pandemic. They were killing people, to be honest. And they'll openly admit that. Right. A lot of the stuff that they were doing was wrong. Where we thrived during COVID. I mean, our business was amazing, and we helped hundreds and hundreds of people based off of nutrient support. It was not fun during those times, and I didn't want to be a type of business that was really capitalizing on a lot of people being sick. But if we weren't going to be there, then how were these people going to get the help? They were going to have to turn to Western medicine and risk sitting in the hospital for 6 to 8 hours and just getting a Z-Pack. Here you go home. And that just wasn't effective at all. Yeah. So I saw that on the fire side, still seeing it on the fire side. And luckily, we've ridden the wave of COVID. It's not an issue at all anymore as far as severe symptoms, unless you're, 80, 90 years old.
Or you live in California.
Or you live in California, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it's tough. I'm just glad that we were able to build a business that was built off of doing the right thing, as opposed to just figuring out ways to make profit.
Yeah, it's good, man.
Yeah, it's fun. Now, if it can just get me out of the fire department. I'm just kidding. No, I have 9 years left. So like I said, I'm at 23 years. So I will, 53 is my retirement age, and my benefits are so good that I don't think I'm going anywhere. Yeah. I mean, even though the business is going really good, it's hard to walk away from that kind of really good pension and benefits. And,
right. Yeah.
So I'll just do both and work my ass off like I always have been.
That was going to be my next question. Is that pretty tough juggling?
It is, but it's how I was made. The one thing that I've always realized about me is I like to work. I like making money. I feel if there's one good quality about me, it's I'm a hard worker. I don't stop. But a lot of everything that I've done over the years has been motivated by somebody telling me that I can't do it. Yeah. I mean, if this was on video, people would see I'm 5'6". I'm not a very large person at all, and never have been. So no matter what I was really going after, I was either judged based off of my height, and that was primarily the fire service. You're not tall enough, you're not strong enough to be in the fire service, which was complete and total bullshit. Yeah. So that's why I really focused my attention on getting a paid position doing that. And then everything after that is, well, no, you're not smart enough to be a paramedic. Well, guess what? Let me freaking prove you wrong. So I got my paramedic. Well, you're not smart enough to have a business. Well, I've owned 2 so far. So all these people that have interjected saying that I can't do something for whatever reason, it just gave me motivation to do it because I love proving people wrong. I love it. It's so much fun. So much fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off to having that mentality and that work ethic. And that means, you're away from your family more than what most people are.
Yeah.
So you really have to balance your life out. I'm married. I have 4 kids. They're all adults. So I have 4 adult children. I have 4 grandkids. And, I missed a lot of time with my kids. But the good thing of that is they were able to watch what hard work will do and what you can achieve.
Yeah.
And so my 3 boys are just killing it. I mean, they work their butts off. They make their own money. They make their own decisions, and they're thriving in life. And I would like to think that that's all because of what they saw me do.
Yeah. You set the example for them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is important.
Yeah.
And it is a trade-off, missing out on things like basketball games and, helping them out with going to dances or whatever else. But I mean, as long as you're making the time that you do spend with them the most worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what I do now. I make up for it now.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily because I feel guilty for not being there a lot of times when they were younger, but raising 4 kids when you're younger is pretty tough financially. It's a big burden. So what do men do? They work, they make money, they provide for their family, and they figure out ways that if they're not cutting it, then they figure out other ways to achieve, making enough money to support their family. So that's what I always arranged my life around. And now that they're adults, I'm able to afford the things that I couldn't. Hey, let's go on a trip to Mexico and I'll help pay for it. Things like that, so I can make up for that lost time.
Yeah.
You ask my kids and they're going to say that it's not necessary. I was a good dad. I wasn't there all the time, but that's also the downfall of being in a career in the fire service. No matter what, if you're a fireman, you're going to miss out on holidays. You're going to miss out on your kids' birthdays because you're stuck on shift.
Right.
So that's just natural when you're in that kind of industry. But it was everything that I did outside of that, whether it was working part-time jobs or going to medic school or owning businesses. That's what really took me away from that quality time I could have had with him. But they're reaping the benefits now.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that the important times, the important lessons that kids learn from their fathers, I think to me, that's what matters most. I mean, yeah, you might miss a holiday, you might miss a birthday or something, but like I said, that time that you do spend with them, when you have time off and you take your son out camping or fishing or, something, you're just spending time together, and then you're having a good time, you're having fun, you're making memories, and maybe that's also where you have the talk or something, those life-changing moments and teaching moments, to me, that's what's most important.
Yeah.
And it depends on every kid, of course.
It does.
But
absolutely. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of all my kids.
I think once they get older, as long as you've been there for those moments, all the other stuff, hopefully just washes away a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
And especially like you said, you're trying to make up for it now, and you have the ability to do that. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's been a journey, let me tell you. Definitely been a journey. What else do you want to know?
So the typical question that I usually ask everybody, and I'm sure that listens is tired of hearing it by now, but what was your first job?
Ooh, my first job was in a baseball card shop.
Oh yeah.
I was 10 years old, and my sole job was to put baseball cards in order. Yeah.
So like Dewey Decimal System?
The numbers. So each baseball card had a number to it.
Yeah.
So if you wanted a complete set, you had to find all the numbers.
That's right.
So they would basically just give you a box full of all, the same year and say, hey, organize them. That was my job, my first job. That was in San Diego, California. I loved it. It was great. And then after that, I would say my first real job, my parents were smart enough to start a business because they wanted to pull us out of school.
Yeah.
So when I first moved up here, Coeur d'Alene High School was the only one that existed. So it was very overcrowded. I came up here in, I believe, 94, 95. And I was just going to be starting my freshman year of high school. And
Is that where you're from originally?
San Diego. Yeah,
okay.
San Diego. But, I came up here when it was not so bad to be a Californian. So, and I've been here long enough to where I kind of consider myself a native. And I married a native, so I think I'm okay.
There you go.
I think I'm okay.
There you go. That's your ticket in.
Right? So when I was 15, my mom decided that, hey, we're going to start a family-owned business, and we're going to pull you from school. You're going to get homeschooled, and then you can get some experience with a business and managing it and everything. So that's what I did from 15 to 18 years old. And it was fun working at a pet shop. It was pretty cool to be managing a pet shop at,
nice.
15, 16 years old. And I thought it was pretty cool.
Is that a pet shop here?
Yeah, it's a pet shop here. Yeah. And then 18 on, that's when mostly from 18 on, that's when I decided to jump off the deep end and get in a bunch of trouble and do a lot of really stupid stuff. And then
that's pretty typical.
And then I figured my shit out and knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But yeah, so I've done a lot of different things. I've been a roofer. I did framing for quite some time. I worked at Coeur Power Tool, which is a local power tool company.
Yeah.
So pet shop. I've worked for AMR in Spokane as a paramedic and an EMT. Worked out at Gaza Ranch as a paramedic, taking care of all the elite people. Worked for a couple different fire departments. I was a carpet cleaner forever. I own my own business doing floors, resurfacing hard surface floors commercially. I did that for about 7 years while I was trying to get a position with the fire department, and did really well with that. Had a lot of accounts. And then I met my wife, so it paid for everything there. So just done a lot of different things, but most of it was for the goal of getting a job with the fire service, but I had to do something until then.
Yeah.
And that was the first business that I owned, was doing floors. And that was very lucrative, but then 2008 hit and everything crashed. And, unfortunately, when you're looking at anything commercial, if it's floor care, that's the first thing that's going to go, when businesses are struggling. I was pretty fortunate at that time that I had just accepted a position with a small fire department, so I was able to get rid of my business and then just focus on the fire service from there.
So when did you decide that you wanted to be in the fire service? At 18?
No, that would have been probably around, I want to say 2021. Yeah, 2021. I was dating a girl, and her mother was an EMT for the ambulance service way back then, so I was kind of exposed to what she did. And, even though I was kind of a piece of shit kid, I knew I was worth more. I knew I wanted to do something with my life. I wanted to make money, and I wanted to help people.
Yeah. And
that was just ingrained in me by my mom. My mom was a very caring person, or still is a caring person. I'm talking about her like she's dead. Jeez, that's horrible. She's still a very caring person. And so she instilled in us a lot of really good morals and ethics, both on the, life and business side. So I always knew that I wanted to gravitate towards something that was more public service. But because of my history with drugs, I couldn't be in law enforcement.
Yeah.
I actually went that route and wanted to be in law enforcement. And they said, nope, you've done these hard drugs. You're not going to make it. You're excluded from it, which irritated me, made me mad.
Yeah.
Because you want people to have those kind of experiences, because then they deal with those type of individuals with more care and compassion. Unless you've been a person that has experienced that lifestyle, you're very judgmental. And that's the problem that you see around in all areas with law enforcement, is if they haven't experienced it or haven't been in that realm, they have no compassion. So that bothered me, but I still had the fire department thing in the back of my head and went, well, my drug history is not going to be a problem in the fire service. And so I went that route, and I volunteered for 5 years. Really good times, but I was still doing a lot of things that were not necessarily appropriate for being able to get a full-time position. I was still running around with the bad crowd and doing stupid stuff. So once I stopped doing that and got my shit together, that's when everything just got better. I was able to get a full-time position with a small department up north. I was there for 9 years. I ended up putting myself through paramedic school, knowing that I wanted out of that small department and wanted to work for a bigger department. So I paid my way through paramedic school and then was offered a position with a large department in this area as a firefighter paramedic. Started over, but it was all worth it.
So working as a paramedic at Gaza Ranch.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
definitely interesting.
So taking care of ODs and
No. So, I mean,
people dehydrated from drinking too much?
or just hungover. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Gaza Ranch is actually a pretty special place. I really enjoyed it out there. You quickly realize that, you know, people with that kind of money, pretty much FU money.
Yeah.
They're still people. They're still decent people.
Oh, yeah.
What was nice about Gaza Ranch is there was a large group of them that were mostly oil tycoon, you know, gas and electric coming from Canada. And they were just using Gaza Ranch as their vacation place to have fun during the summertime. And in the wintertime, they'd go back to Toronto or wherever they were from. But they wouldn't treat you like the hired help. But when you started, you know, being around like the NHL, the hockey players, or the ones that were more sports oriented, and that's how they built their money, you were definitely the hired help. So there was just this big difference between how you made your money and how they treated people.
It's weird.
But 75% of every member that was at Gaza Ranch was very polite, very humble, just wanted to get away from the norm and enjoy Coeur d'Alene for what it was while being in their own little island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they kind of have to be in their own little island in order to get away and not be bothered.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good people. But mostly what I did out there was, you know, dealing with splinters and stubbed toes and just the minor stuff. They're so remote out there that they wanted to make sure they had medical personnel out there. But one of the big things out there was infusions, vitamin infusions. And, you know, it's funny how we segued into that, because I'm sure eventually the conversation would be, how did you get into doing your business? Well,
yeah.
Might as well talk about that. So while I was out there, the hangover crowd was huge. I mean, these people are drinking every single day, going golfing and partying it up. And so doing just simple IV infusions, hangover cures, was huge. And that's what we were really there designed to do. So that gave me the exposure to the whole idea of nutrient infusions. Little did I know that I would build a company off of it that wasn't even marketing towards what I had learned out there, the whole hangover crowd, but marketing towards actually fixing chronic issues. So everything just blew up into what it is now, based off of us being educated, traveling around and getting taught by some of the, you know, world-renowned naturopaths, and realizing how much this can affect people's lives, and, you know, looking more towards chronic illness as opposed to being a drip bar.
Yeah, just a drip bar.
Yeah. Or a spa, a med spa stabbing you with a needle. It's sickening. Yeah.
You don't like med spas?
I do not. You know, I don't like the abuse of doing something that is medical, actually putting an IV in someone's arm and putting fluids in their vein that is going directly to their heart, purely for profit, without any education whatsoever. It's very dangerous. But yet a lot of the medical spas in the area go, well, Idaho doesn't care, we can do it. And they have no idea what they're doing. And it's just a ticking time bomb before someone gets hurt. You know, you hear about the stories all over the country of people not doing it correctly and causing infections, or infusing too much potassium, or infusing something that isn't appropriate for that patient because they have an allergy, and bad things happen. Well, that puts a bad light on the companies that are doing it correctly. You know, a perfect example of that is, you know, they just came out with brand new regulations. The FDA did, USP, which is really what controls the pharmacy industry, but it's regulated by the FDA. Well, they just put a business like mine, or anybody that's doing infusions, in the same classification as a compounding pharmacy. So we have to adhere to the same sterile rules, compounding rules that you would see in a pharmacy. Right. So that
makes sense.
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Which is why even before these new rules came out 3 years ago, we built a clean room in our office, a true regulated clean room, certified up to par, even without these new regulations. Well, November 1st changed some things around and made it even more difficult. But the whole basis is USP and FDA wants to get rid of all of the mobile IV infusion places that are just doing it really dangerous, and all the drip bars that are doing it. The problem with that, though, is we are one of 23 people doing infusions in Coeur d'Alene, Hayden, Spokane, the whole area around here. We are the only ones that are even attempting to abide by these regulations. We are the only ones with a clean room, And we're the only ones mixing everything underneath a Class 5 hood system, which is a requirement. The state, unfortunately, is not going to regulate any of this because they don't have the manpower. So even though the federal rules came in and said this is what has to happen, it's not a guideline, it's a rule. Idaho is not going to enforce it. So you have 22 other places that are just not even caring. They're just doing it however they want to do. While we are spending tens of thousands of dollars keeping ourselves self-compliant for safety.
But we have an FBI office here in Coeur d'Alene.
Mm-hmm. So but that's FBI.
Right. But do you think that at any point, since it's a federally regulated thing, that maybe they might get involved?
They won't. Yeah, they won't until, and this is coming from the state. They are not going to be enforcing any of this stuff until there's too many complaints or someone dies, which is sad.
Oh, okay. All right.
They just don't have the manpower. There's no budget for them to actually go out and regulate it.
So you're going to wait for it to be a problem before you actually do something about it.
Yep. So all these places that are not even trying to comply, like I said, it's a ticking time bomb. They're putting themselves in such a huge liability for what they're doing.
Right.
Because it only takes one person to have some kind of adverse reaction, and that's going to affect everybody in the entire state.
Right. God, that's a sticky subject too.
It is.
I can see, I agree to a point, that regulations definitely help things.
Some things,
because yes, you want people to be doing it the right way and to not be killing people, and you don't want them putting negative light on what it is that you do. But then at the same time, people should be doing their research. Yep. People should be looking at what it is they want. And before they go to some, Bob's fucking country bunker infusion shop on the corner, like, okay, well, what do they have in there? Oh, well, he's got a bunch of stray cats lying around and, he's cooking steaks in the back and shit. Like, no, don't go to that one. Go to the one that has spent thousands of dollars on an actual clean room, and they have nice facilities and, good staff, people that take care of you.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I think the main problem really is the people who go to those shit shops.
It's true. Yeah. Cause they're supporting an unsafe practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why we are the busiest, the leader in this area, is because enough people have recognized the big difference between us and anybody else. Cause keep in mind, our business is built solely off of infusions and injections. We don't do anything else.
Yeah.
We are the only company doing that. Every other person in this entire North Idaho, Spokane area, it is just an adjunct to something else that they do. They are a naturopathic office, so they have that revenue coming in, and they just happen to offer infusions. They are a chiropractic office. They are a med spa. They are whatever, where our business is solely doing infusions, injections, period. So we've been able to build a phenomenal business off of that, where everybody else has had to use other income to support their business.
So I'm curious, what about one of these med spas, right? And they actually go through the process of getting patient information, and talking to them and stuff like this, figuring out what this person actually needs. And then instead of just throwing a bunch of crap together in a back room and jamming it in somebody's arm, they get in touch with someone like yourself to have you guys actually mix up for them what they need. And then the person comes in for their interview. Like this is all being done before before they have their spa treatment. So at the time they come in for their spa treatment, they already have the IV that you guys have mixed together, and it's ready to go to work in conjunction with their spa.
So you're talking more is
like partnering,
is like
I guess.
A med spa contracting out to us to provide the infusions, or at least mix it in our room so it's safe.
Yeah.
And a protocol that is, tried and true and proven.
Right.
They don't like that. Their profit margins go way down when they do that. So there really isn't a huge profit margin when it comes to infusions, unless you are just gouging the clients. I mean, there are some pretty expensive infusions that we do, but when you look at the markup as a whole, you're right around the 20% mark, which isn't a whole lot.
Yeah.
But if you go with what a lot of other industries are doing with, 50 or 100% markup, nobody can afford it. It's just too expensive. Mm-hmm. The average infusion for just the lifestyle side, your just everyday person, is around $155. Optimally, you should be doing that every 2 weeks. Well, you do the math, that can get pretty expensive.
Yeah, $310 a month.
Yeah. But then you start getting into the therapeutic stuff where we're really going after chronic conditions, and people are having to come in 2-3 times a week at $300 a pop.
Yeah.
So insurance doesn't cover any of this.
I was just going to ask. I imagine Blue Cross doesn't cover it.
Not at all.
Which is so dumb because it's preventative maintenance.
Yep, it is. And if you look at, other countries like Europe, preventative care is covered.
Yeah.
But United States, nope, not at all.
No, of course not. Because they want you to get so sick that you end up on the docket with everybody else who's taken, the $50,000 a pill drugs or hitting the chemo stations or everything else.
Yep. Yeah. It's a disgusting world we live in.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fucking disgusting.
Yeah. It is. So, we've had some companies that wanted to partner with us. I'm not going to name any names because I'm mad at them right now. But one company wanted to partner with us who really does a lot with the recovery type stuff. So, hyperbaric chambers, red light therapies, stuff like that. And we were going to partner with them and just provide the infusion aspect. Well, we actually had a space that was picked out. Well, they picked out. I didn't necessarily agree with where it was at. The location was not the best. And it was just more of a tourist trap type of thing.
Yeah.
Well, it was going to be pretty rocky to really turn a profit in that location in the first place, but it was a jumpstart to do a, larger partnership in the future. As they grew, we would follow them along to their different locations, and it sounded like a great idea. So we pretty much were just going to do like an on-call nurse thing. If someone booked an appointment, then we would send them down there and do the infusion. It all kind of made sense to a certain degree. But once these new regulations came out, they completely took our ability to do that away. Because now in that...
Because that falls under like the mobile thing, right?
It falls under the mobile, but what it really comes down to is now that location has to have a clean room and a hood system. Well, right there, you're at $50,000.
Yeah.
Why would I invest $40,000 to $50,000 on building a clean room and a hood system if I know that place is probably not going to be very profitable anyway?
Right.
It makes no sense, no business sense whatsoever. So we ended up backing out of that, and it was a good thing. But now they're going and looking at these other infusion places that aren't even close to what we do and trying to get them into that location. Mm-hmm. So they really just went to our competitors and trying to convince them to be in there. So, and we've had some other companies that want to do some kind of partnership with us as well. But when you really look at it, what we do is very unique. And when we start branching out to assist other businesses, we have the potential of diluting our brand. And our brand is extremely important because we are known as the place to go for infusions, especially on the chronic disorder side. So I'm very, very careful to protect what I've built over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Along with my business partner.
Which makes sense. You should be.
It does, because then again, your liability increases as well.
Yeah.
What we do is not liked by the Western medicine community anyway. So anytime that you can negate liability, you're doing good. So we're just keeping it fairly simple with our one office, and we had all these dreams to expand and franchise and everything else, but right now we're just happy with where we're at, and we just want to focus on what we're doing and build that up and just see where it takes us.
Do you still intend to branch out and expand later if maybe they drop some of the rules and regulations a little bit?
Well, the rules and regulations are really not what is preventing us from expanding if we expand the right way.
Okay.
But when it goes to going into somebody else's building that they are renting, but yet we're going to need to invest $40,000, $50,000 on building a clean room in their facility that we have no control over, that's when it gets pretty rocky.
Gotcha. So to expand, you're looking at you're needing to buy commercial property,
correct,
build and versus renting.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or lease.
That makes sense.
Because we're leasing our building that we're in right now. So if we had an opportunity that made sense to go up into Sandpoint or go into Liberty Lake, once once it's ideally what we want, then it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Because then we have control over everything that we're doing, and we're doing it safely. I mean, ultimately our business revolves around one thing, and that's patient safety.
Yeah.
The money is not really an object for us. You know, me and my business partner both have full-time jobs. We make good money as firemen. We're fine. This was just because we wanted to do something that was helping people and it made sense. If we don't get rich off of it, not that big of a deal, as long as we're still profitable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So, and you know, I mean, it's nice to have something as well that in, 9 years when I retire from the fire service, I could probably sell for a lot of money, or I could just keep it and keep on, generating some income from that, kind of like that little nest egg type thing.
Yeah. You're talking about something that isn't necessarily going to make you a millionaire, but it pays for itself plus a little bit extra.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And gives me something to do on my days off from the fire service.
Right.
So, yeah. And that's probably why this business has worked so well for us, is because we weren't relying on our livelihood with it. We weren't needing a certain amount of money. At 44 years old, I would have to have, $10,000+ a month from this business starting out if I didn't have the fire service.
Right.
Right. And that's how most businesses fail, is because people have no other money that's being generated for their livelihood, and they're relying solely on the business that they're creating, and they're just not making enough money, so they end up having to close shop. We were unique where we didn't have to worry about that. We each had a little bit of money to invest in it. If it worked, awesome. If it failed, no big deal. We never went out for loans. It was purely out of money that we had saved up. It was a small investment that we made in the beginning. We had no investors coming in. Everything was paid for cash, and still is paid for cash.
Nice.
So we keep it very simple, humble, and fairly risk-free. The only risk we really have right now is the lease, because we're locked into 5 years. But we also made in our contract that there was an escape clause. If the FDA ever came in and said, hey, you can't do any of this anymore, we have that escape clause.
Yeah.
So we
at
saw
that point,
the future.
Yeah, at that point, you can back out and be
Exactly.
like, yep, sorry.
Yep, exactly.
Done.
Yeah. Yeah, because I
Smart move, man.
Yeah, I want to protect my family. I want to protect my livelihood.
Yeah. Yeah, that would suck to have to pay for the lease on the place and you can't even run business.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, that is always a risk with what we do. You just have no idea what the FDA is going to do nowadays. And the most recent thing is they're reclassifying peptides for whatever reason. But and trust me, I've been fielding so many calls over it, because we prescribe a lot of peptides because they're safe, they're effective, they're phenomenal, love them. And, you're hearing all over the news that the FDA is going after it, and they're going to make them unavailable and not being able to be compounded. And really what they did is they just moved them from a class 1 to a class 2. By doing that, it gives the federal government the ability to go after compounding pharmacies and shut them down for doing peptides if they show cause. Whereas when they were in class 1, they couldn't touch them. So people started freaking out now that they moved them over into that class 2, but really it doesn't affect much, but they've done that with all kinds of different things. The reality is the FDA is in bed with certain peptides anyway, like semaglutide, which is that weight loss garbage drug that's out there. So they're already dealing with peptides and making money off of it on the pharmaceutical side through the FDA, because it's an FDA approved off-label drug. So there's a lot of just fear going on, but that's pretty normal in this kind of industry. And you just have to take all of it with a grain of salt until it truly becomes a problem.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. The way that the FDA does their business, it's not even, they're supposed to be there to protect the consumer, and they're not. They don't give a flying shit about the consumer. No. It's all about who has enough money to lobby for them to shut something down, or to favor something, or, hey, if you go ahead and approve this, we'll make sure that so-and-so gets a good donation.
And we're going to fast track the vaccine without any
real testing,
any real data to show that it's, not only efficacy, but safety. And we're just going to push it out to the masses and require it for government agencies. And then, hey, if it ends up turning out bad, we can wash our hands of it and go, well, sorry. Yeah. No big deal.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Sorry you lost your loved ones because they clotted. Yeah. Obviously, with that statement, you can say how I feel about the vaccine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, probably the same way I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe anybody can boost their immune system and keep themselves healthy and fend off a lot of what's going out there as long as they take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. But this idea that you have to take a vaccine or some lab created thing to fend off what is supposedly naturally produced out there is just complete garbage.
Yeah. Well, a vaccine that isn't really a vaccine.
It is not. No, it is not.
It doesn't do the same thing. It doesn't act the same way.
Yep.
And at first they were all saying, "Oh, we'll get the vaccine, and you'll never have to worry about it. You won't get COVID." And then
all the boosters came.
Yeah. And then just like a few weeks later, they were like, "Oh, well, no, that's not what we said.
Yep.
If you get it, it makes the effects of it less.
Yeah, it lessens your symptoms. Yeah. That's not a vaccine.
Yeah. That's not a vaccine.
No.
The polio vaccine was a vaccine.
Yeah. And I'm not
Smallpox.
saying, and that's, to go back on, I'm not saying that all vaccines are bad.
Yeah, of course not. No.
I've done all the other ones in the past,
Yeah.
I agree with, all the vaccines that kids get to deal with measles and all the other stuff.
My only issue with that is I think that they're compounding way too many.
Absolutely.
They're putting like 30, 40 of them in one shot now. And it's like, yes, it's more convenient. Sure, you don't have to get as many jabs all at once, or over time. But man, when you're jamming that much crap into somebody, it can't be good.
No,
it cannot turn out right. How are you supposed to fight off 30 hordes, versus just focusing on one at a time?
Yep. No, we've lost focus on the true meaning of vaccines and. It all made sense when science was backing the true reasons, when you had the measles outbreaks and you had all these other different things that we were vaccinating for because it was killing hundreds of thousands of people. But they did all the research prior to, they made sure that it was safe.
Yeah.
It wasn't up until COVID that they started just fast tracking this whole garbage vaccine idea, and it was purely generated off of profit margins. How much money can we make all this?
Right.
But you didn't see that with a lot of the other vaccines that, we had to have as kids. And because you had honest people that were just looking for a way to negate the effects of whatever was out there. I think it all kind of started with the flu vaccine. And that's just been a joke over the years because there's never been any research behind its efficacy each year. And they'll even admit that, hey, it's 50%, we're 50% right each year. Maybe we'll have that flu strain. Maybe we won't. So it all started with that because now they're making a bunch of money off of that. And now they know they can push the envelope even further and say, hey, this is a vaccine when it's not. Yeah, and you just keep on seeing them roll out more and more vaccines, HPV and all the other different ones. Like, oh my God, just stop.
Yeah, all the pharmacy companies are sitting back like, you know what? I just thought of something. These morons are buying flu vaccines every year and they don't ask questions.
Yep.
They just go into their local Walgreens and they take it.
Yeah.
What else can we do?
Yep. If you just build up your immune system.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in herd immunity. Be around sick people.
And that was
sick.
Right. Yeah. It's
Eat dirt,
like chicken pox.
Drink out of a hose that's been sitting in direct sunlight all day, like what we used to do as kids.
Yeah. If that Oreo falls on the ground, 5-second rule, man. You're fine.
5 seconds, exactly. Unless you're in the firehouse. Yeah. If you're in the firehouse and something drops on the floor, you don't eat it.
Or a public restroom.
There, so there is some variations to that. There's the 5-second rule, 10-second rule, depending on where you're at. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does bother me that they push so hard for this stuff and then people just eat it up and they buy it and they don't think about it.
Yep.
And to get into liberals and all that stuff, right? So they push so hard for inclusion and acceptance and all this other stuff, right? But they're the most exclusive, unaccepting crowd that there ever possibly could be. And I'm not saying that the far right isn't just as bad.
Yeah.
But when you have people who are constantly crying for freedom and they want to be able to just do what they want to do and be who they want to be, and yet they're constantly also trying to push the government to put more legislation in place against so-and-so and this and that. And it's, what are you doing?
Yeah.
More government legislation and more rules and more regulations and shit is not going to get you what you want.
Yep.
And if they'll do it for you, then whoever's in charge in the next 4 years will do it for us. So you have to remember that. Like, stop fighting so hard to hold back and push down the other guys when you could just be looking for some kind of common ground.
Yeah.
And you could also be using your own damn brains and looking at, doing your research. Okay, well, is this actually a vaccine? What does it do? Who's making it? What's in it? How does it work? And then look at the statistics of everything else. Like, that was the number one reason why I decided not to take it. Well, it's not the number one reason. The number one reason was because it was, being pushed by the government. And so I was like, no, fuck that. But a major decision for why I decided not to take it was I started digging around online and I started looking up whatever I could at the time. And the funny thing was, all that stuff came out about how if you just jumped on Google and you typed in, any random number into Google and then death rates and your state, you would always get an article for the day that you typed that in saying the death rate was that number. And then you could immediately 2 seconds later type in some other random number, death rate, same state, and you'd get another article for same day that says that. So they were using algorithms in Google and other search engines to grab whatever it is you're searching for.
Yep.
And to just instantly create top level headlines for you to click on. And they were probably all AI generated sites that,
I'm sure,
for one, are just pushing advertising, probably for, get vaccinated and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. But
you're still seeing it.
It was digital fear mongering.
Oh, yeah,
is all
absolutely.
it was. And yes, they're still doing it.
They're still doing it.
So I started going in and I started doing the actual work to look at, okay, all of these sites that I'm actually, I believe are reputable, and maybe a few that I don't know. And I'm going to take all the numbers that they're giving. And I literally put together a spreadsheet of all this stuff. I went total nerd on it.
Nice.
And was like, all right, so there's all these numbers, blah, 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 there's all this stuff, and then this and that. And it came down to looking at it as, well, I have a 99.8% chance of surviving it just by getting it. 99.8% survival rate. As long as you don't have, a whole bunch of comorbidities. Yep. If you're overweight, if your nutrition is shitty, if you're a smoker, yes.
Hypertension, asthma.
Yep. So all of these things, as long as you don't have, I think what it was 3. It was 3 was the magic number. If you have at least 3 other serious comorbidities, then more than likely you were going to have a bad time. And so I looked at that and I'm like, well, yeah, okay, I have some high blood pressure issues and blah, blah, blah. But all in all, especially with the way I've been working on myself in the last couple of years, like, I feel great. I think I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And so I was like, but that was the thing, is I've never chastised anybody for their choice. Like, you have to do what you feel is right for your health and safety.
Yep.
Nowhere in the U.S. Constitution does it guarantee your health and safety. That's for you. That's on you to take care of.
Absolutely.
So if somebody was like, did you get your vaccine? And I was like, nah, I'm not going to get that. Oh, okay. That's all that conversation should be. I don't need a fucking lecture from you about why I should or have to do it. Like, no, if you want it, you go get it, and that's fine. I'm not going to judge you, and I'm not going to call you stupid. I have my own opinion, but I'll keep it to myself because it's my opinion doesn't matter. Yep. That's for you.
My grandparents asked me.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 85 years old and they asked me, what do you think? Is this something that we should do? And I'm like, you know what? You got to do what you feel is right for you.
Right.
I mean, you guys are older. I mean, you have some comorbidities. Like, you do what you think is right. I'm like, I can't tell you what is right for you. But if you flip that around and you have someone that is super, a huge believer in the vaccine, they're going to chastise the shit out of you.
Yeah.
You are demonized for your beliefs of not wanting to do the vaccine. And I saw it more than probably what most in the fire service.
Yep.
You had, excuse me, I was very fortunate to where the department that I work for, about half of the members probably did the injection while the other half didn't, but there was no judgment. I mean, there was with certain individuals, you would get some comments.
Yeah.
But I was very blessed to know that my department was never going to make you do it. It was your choice.
Yeah, they weren't going to uphold that OSHA horseshit.
Absolutely. But then you looked at a lot of the, Spokane firefighters, and they were being forced to it, and they would lose their job. There was like 20, some of them that ended up losing their job because they wouldn't do it.
Right.
And then another fire department over in Washington, they took all the ones that weren't going to do it and put them in a single station and, ostracized them, basically said, we don't want you around anybody else. So this is your station and this is where you're going to stay. And you have to wear a mask 24 hours a day. So we're looking at all this going, this is just a bunch of garbage. This is horse shit. But everywhere we went, especially in the fire service, you were being attacked for not doing the vaccine or not wearing a mask and not conforming to that liberal agenda. And it was disheartening because I've been in the fire service so long that, 23 years is a long time. You pretty much know every firefighter in this area, and most of them you become really close to. I lost so much respect during that time, and I don't even talk to quite a few people who just went off on the deep end and judged me for my opinion. Even as simple as, I did a PSA on Facebook of just the whole mask thing, where I'm going to tiptoe around this one. But basically what I did is I took a N95 mask and I ripped the guts out of it so you could see through it. But I wanted to prove a point, not just for what I believe, but for what the opposition believes as far as the whole mask mandate.
Yeah.
And I went into Costco and I walked around all of Costco, which they were real bad with the whole mask thing. You couldn't even enter the store without a mask. It was super bad. I walked all the way through, did all my shopping, and then I took a picture of me wearing the mask, obviously see-through. And it was just a simple PSA to everybody, letting them know that, the state that we're in, it doesn't matter any safety of what you're putting on your face. Like, this obviously has absolutely no safety to it. I can breathe through it, but because I'm wearing it and it offers no protection, it's still acceptable as a mask.
Right.
Oh man, within days, I get a phone call from my chief saying, hey, I have gotten a phone call from the mayor, 2 county commissioners, 2 department chiefs from other organizations, all wanting you fired.
Ooh.
I'm like, all right, well, you want me to take it down? What do you want me to do, chief? And he goes, no, you have freedom of speech. And honestly, it was a PSA to everybody. Like, you weren't taking sides. You were just saying no level of protection really matters in a public space as long as you have a face covering on, which means it's stupid. It's a dumb rule.
Right.
You're just trying to educate people. And so he said, don't remove it. You keep it up there if you want to. And I got your back. And he supported me through the entire thing.
Nice.
But even till now, there's certain chiefs, there's certain commissioners, there's certain fire department personnel that won't even talk to me because of that simple Facebook.
Jesus.
And it was a fireman who spread it to all the powers in the area to try and get me fired.
Oh.
Yeah.
So one of the other fellows saw that,
who was a friend of mine,
took it upon himself
took it upon himself. Yes.
To out you.
To out me. I don't need to be outed. It's out there. It's in a public forum.
Right. But to try and like push it out there and vilify you.
Vilify me. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. So that was my lesson on, who really is your friend and who's not. Because of the fire service, it's all this, brotherhood. You're all brothers protecting each other. COVID definitely showed that no one's protecting anybody.
Yeah.
There's no brotherhood in the fire service. COVID proved that. People will walk all over you if their beliefs differ from yours, just like in any organization. Mm-hmm. It's just the fire department has this stigma that this brotherhood is more important than a lot of different things, God, fire department, family type thing, or fire department, God, family. There's different beliefs on how that's all structured. But COVID taught a lot of us that, that is non-existent. You purely are just going to work, doing your job and going home. You do the best job that you can. You take care of people. But as far as having that brotherhood, no, absolutely not.
Yeah. And it's sad.
It is.
So. And again, your health and safety is your decision. right? And them selling it as, well, if you don't put on a mask and you don't get the jab and all this stuff, well, you're killing everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, if everybody else is wearing masks and getting the jab, then what the hell is there for them to worry about from me?
Exactly.
You know,
I was never judgmental towards anybody who believed in all that kind of stuff. You know, I supported them. Like, make your own decision, dude. I got you, bro.
Right. Like I said, I
got you, bro.
I had my own opinion, right? But I didn't say it to anybody's face. Like if somebody came up to me and asked me what my opinion was, I'm going to give it to them.
Yeah.
But I didn't outright go out of my way to get in somebody's face in Walmart for wearing a mask and tell them that they're stupid and that what they believe is dumb. And, you know, it's like, no, that's your decision. You want to wear it? Go ahead.
You do you, boo.
Yeah.
I mean, do what you think is best for you. I mean, I'm in no position to judge how you think, what you believe in. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the same thing with politics. I mean, if you're a Democrat, I mean, we can still be friends. We're going to disagree on a lot of different things. Should I disagree with a lot of Republicans? But it's finding that common ground. And once you forget about that and you just vilify somebody just purely off of what they believe, then, I mean, what are you going to do from there?
Yeah.
You know, it just makes no sense.
Yeah, it's just self-righteousness.
Yeah.
You know, and it's people thinking that they know best for everybody, or really they're just, what the hell is that called? I can't remember the word for it now, but you know, they want to be a part of something. Yeah. And so they feel like in order to do that, then they have to join the mob. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And really deep down, they don't give a shit. No. But they're going to be pissed off and angry and try to tell you what you have to do so that they can be a part of the crowd. Yep. Yeah. It's so stupid.
It is.
It's so stupid.
And I mean, there's probably some things that we've said in this conversation that your listeners disagree with. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. It doesn't mean that you're my enemy. Yeah. You know, I shouldn't be your enemy and I'm not your enemy. I mean, we could probably sit down and have a beer and talk about it. And I'm still going to respect you the same as long as you don't attack me. Right. Because I know I'm not going to attack you. Mm-hmm. You know, and people forget that it's okay to have differences.
Right. It's okay to have differing opinions. Yep. And it's fine. Like, it's not that big a deal. You don't always have to be right. And you don't always have to be, well, honestly, you don't always have to be heard. But when you sit down for a conversation, if you're going, I've said this before, if you're going into it with the objective of winning, then you've already lost. Yep. Then it's not a conversation. It's just you spewing whatever bullshit rhetoric and your opinion and what you think because you think you're fucking right. Yeah. And you're not going to get anywhere. No. Because then you just end up attacking the other person and then they're not going to listen and they're probably going to tell you to go to hell and walk out.
Yeah. If you go into it with the idea that you're going to learn something. Yeah. You're going to have a great conversation and both of you should be walking out with something, because even if you don't agree with someone's politics or beliefs or whatever, there's something you can learn from them. Right. You're learning every time you conversate with somebody. You know, this is the first time you and I have ever talked, and I'm learning about what you believe in, your mannerisms, everything about you. I'm learning. Right. Even if I disagree with something that you say, I'm still learning about you.
Right. But that's the thing, though, is if you disagree, like, okay, well, why do you disagree? Yeah. You know, and then we sit and we talk about it. And maybe I learn from you, like, you have a good point there. I never thought about it that way. Yeah. You know, and you might change my mind a little bit.
Absolutely.
Who knows?
It's going in with an open mind.
Yeah. But unfortunately, this kind of conversation doesn't really exist much anymore. No. It's always, most of the time, two people who sit down and say that they're going to have a conversation, but it's really just each one trying to convince the other that they're right. Yep. It's like, well, that's not going to get you anywhere, man.
No, not at all. Not at all. But yeah. But that's the world we live in. And, you know, I'm pretty fortunate to where with my business, you know, most every client that we see, or patient, whatever you want to call them, I prefer to call them clients because I don't like calling them patients, but really they are. You know, they believe in health and in taking care of their bodies and not listening to all the bullshit. And, you know, we didn't have a whole lot of mask wearers coming in during the COVID times. There were people that were okay with getting sick because they wanted to build that herd immunity. It's just now that they're sick, they want to be able to get over it sooner. Yeah. And so they were pumping their systems full of really good nutrients and getting over it so they could go back to regular life. And then they were better for it. Very, very few times we actually had anybody coming in that was really far on the left, which I don't even know why they were coming in the first place, because most people on the left don't believe in what we do.
Really?
Yeah, most of them don't.
That's weird.
No, it is super weird, but that's definitely what we did learn through COVID. Is the left is very more Western medical oriented. They believe in the science that Fauci tells them, or Western medicine tells them, and what we do doesn't work. So the words of like ivermectin and all the other things that were coming out that actually were good, they were really against. So because that was more on the natural side, then they didn't gravitate towards getting infusions.
Yeah. Which is weird because the ivermectin, it isn't even really that far on the natural side. I mean, it is, but it's still government regulated and all this other crap, and it's produced by pharmaceutical companies, and it's like,
same thing with hydrochloroquine and some of the other things that they were doing.
Yeah. What do you think about monoclonal antibodies?
I think they have their place.
Yeah.
I think it would have worked if it was done a lot earlier in the game, but unfortunately when they finally started coming out with it, people were already way too far gone. I mean, during the time when they were doing it at the fairgrounds, the fire department was responding there quite a bit because people were waiting way too long. And so they would go there with, super severe issues, especially with their O2 sats, their lungs were just filling up and not doing so well. And, but they were going there to get the monoclonal antibodies and thinking that was going to fix them, but they had waited way too long. So I think there's a time and place for different things like that. I don't know too much on how well it worked because like I said, it was too late in the ball game.
I think there's a lot of things that should have been done earlier.
Oh, absolutely.
But were hindered.
Yep. Yep.
Like why, and obviously we know the answer, but the question is, why would you suppress so many of these things that we already have, that we know have effects that kind of coincide with what we want to stop something, right? So you talk about the ivermectin, the hydrochloroquine, all this stuff. Why are you completely overlooking that and you're shoving it in a closet? And you've got people who are actively testing it in all these different places who are saying like, yeah, this actually does something. It helps, or it works, or, this could be a cure. And you're standing in the background and, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. Shut up. We're just gonna wait until we have this new quote vaccine so we can push it out to everybody right away.
That's a great question.
So why would you sit on it?
It's a great question. Nobody knows.
Yeah. You had so many people that were like, no, we've tried this on several different patients now, almost 100 people, and gotten great results.
Yep.
How about in the meantime, we try this stuff and then we'll see what you come up with.
Yeah. Very good question.
Yeah. But no, they suppressed everything.
They did.
They suppressed everything. They erased it from the internet, or tried to, and
they demonized every physician that was prescribing it and using it. Put a lot of physicians out of business, took their licenses away.
Yeah.
A lot of bad stuff during that time.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I could not understand for the life of me why they were doing that, which, I mean, the answer is obvious now, because they wanted money. And there's no money in stuff that's been on the shelf already so long that it's, out of copyright or whatever, so that anybody can make it. And, you can get it for $1.25 a dose versus $500.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, what we have already has been, almost, I don't want to say perfected, but it's not going to have the same built-in side effects that you can sell more drugs for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out what happens the next time this goes around. I mean, I'm not a huge conspiracy theorist, but I believe that this was a big old test to see what kind of compliance we could get out of the American people.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. That's what I was saying.
That's my belief.
Yeah. If these morons will buy flu vaccines every year, what else can we sell them?
Yeah.
And then the same thing. You've got, okay, well, how far can we push them before they fight back?
Yeah.
What can we get away with? But it's the frog in a hot plate, right? Because we'll get used to it the more they do it. So this year it was us pushing back against masks, over the last couple of years. And then the next time it'll be like, well, we did masks for a while, or whatever, like, we'll just deal with it. And then they'll push more. And we're like, no, we're not doing that. And then it's one step back, two steps forward.
Oh, yeah. I just wish I would have been smart enough to, buy some stock and masks and toilet paper,
right?
And
Lysol, hand
sanitizer, all the things. There is some people that just made a killing off of the scare tactics.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. Well, yeah, there's people that were buying it, out of the store. They were getting all they could and then selling it on eBay for a box of Lysol wipes for $30.
Yep.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Price gouging people. And
well, there's a reason why, you had all of these places that were selling those things were considered, essential.
Yeah.
But all of the things that were promoted towards your health, like gyms, martial arts schools, anything that was healthy, were non-essential.
Yeah.
So you're going to prevent people from keeping themselves healthy and working out.
But you're going to let them go buy snickerdoodles at Walmart all day.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so who was it that was saying, I think it was Leo was talking about how strip clubs stayed open because they were essential.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can't prevent the politicians from going to strip clubs.
Yeah.
It's essential.
Yeah.
They need it. Yeah. It's a stress reliever. Yeah. Our government money at its work. Yeah. So anyway, well, now that you got my whole belief system on COVID out of the way, that'll probably get me in trouble. Depending on the expanse of your listeners, I'm sure there's somebody that knows me that will cause some trouble. But at this point in my life, I just do not give a shit.
Well, if we're lucky, this episode will get pulled from YouTube. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you ain't gonna worry about it.
Yeah, I'm too old to care anymore. Every decision that I make is for the right reasons. What usually gets me in trouble is speaking from my heart. But I don't like being censored. I don't like having a tiptoe around my beliefs, especially if someone is asking. If you want my honest opinion, I'm going to give it to you. If you have a problem with that, I'm sorry. If you want to make a problem out of it, well, then fuck you.
Yeah.
I told you what you wanted. I answered what you wanted me to answer. You wanted my opinion. And if you're going to go off and make trouble for me, well, then fuck you. Man up, come to my face.
They look at you and they're like, oh, well.
Yeah.
It's like, you fucking asked.
Yeah, you fucking asked. Yeah. Or you interjected in a conversation that you shouldn't have been a part of, and now you got my opinion.
Yeah.
But I don't go and seek out altercations. I'm a pretty quiet, chill guy. I don't like drama. I just like working, my family, jiu-jitsu, and making money.
Sounds pretty simple to me.
I'm a pretty simple person, but when we get into conversations and I do speak my mind, that's usually what ends up getting people all riled up. But like I said, I'm 44 years old. I just don't care anymore if you have a problem with the way I believe.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't believe in this whole cancel culture crap. So.
Oh yeah, don't even get me started on cancel culture.
Yeah, I know. And most people that have a problem with me,
virtue signaling. Damn it, that's what I was looking for earlier.
Virtue signaling. Yeah. If I have a problem with someone, I'm going to talk to them about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way to be, man. Like if you have a problem with me, like okay, let me know. Be a man about it, but don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
I think there's a very big difference there that people can't seem to grasp anymore. Yeah. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to tell you to your face. Like, I kind of think you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I hate you.
And if someone walked up to me and said that to me, I'd shake their hand and like,
yeah,
all right,
cool.
I respect your opinion.
Yeah.
Is there anything I can do to change your mind?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to fight. I mean, I'll break you in half. Like I have no reason to have a physical altercation with somebody, and they don't want to with me. So nothing ever is going that direction. If you come at me with, kindness, or even if you're a little bit aggressive, but I know that you're not going to get in a physical altercation with me. We can sit there and talk. You can yell at me for a little bit, and then I'm going to find some kind of way to calm it down so we can have a conversation. Because I'm not afraid of the physical altercation. I will twist you into a fucking pretzel. And they know that. So come at me with some kind of humbleness. And if you disagree with what I say, or if you have a problem with what I do, let's freaking talk about it. Because physical violence isn't going to do anything besides you getting hurt. I'm not worried about myself, but let's have a conversation. That's harder than a physical confrontation.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot more difficult to sit down and actually be truly vulnerable.
Yeah.
And talk to somebody and put out your opinion and be open-minded and able to accept what they're telling you. You know, even if they're telling you like right back to your face, like, well, you know, you're not the fucking greatest human being either. You know, that's way easier than just throwing punches, or way harder.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you're right. People don't want to put themselves in a vulnerable position to find out that they were wrong, or they misjudged a person, or miscommunication or whatever else. You know, a perfect example is, you know, I was pulling out of this one intersection, and it was a pretty nasty intersection. It's an uncontrolled intersection, lots of traffic, especially around 5 o'clock, and so, you know, this happens to be in my fire district, so I know how dangerous it is. So I take my time. You know, I'm sitting at the stoplight, checking both ways, and there's some small gaps, but not enough for me to risk it. And I got this guy behind me just laying on the horn. I'm like, dude, what the fuck, right? So I finally get out, and he races up to me, and he's tailing me the entire time up to the light. I'm like, all right, let's find out what this guy's issue is, because, you know, as he passed me, I'm like, what's the hell the deal, dude? So I pull over, he comes up next to me and tell him to roll down his window. I'm like, what's up, bro? And he goes, pull out in the fucking intersection. He just starts going off on me. And I'm like, dude, chill. Like, what kind of hurry are you in? Like, I told him, do you want to go home safe to your family? Well, so do I. I'm like, what kind of rush are you needing to be in? Like, that's a very dangerous intersection. Yeah, I probably could have pulled out a couple times, but it's a risk, you know? Right. It's a risk. Chill out. Well, what the fuck you want to do? You want to pull over and fight? I'm like, what are we for? Like, what am I, in grade school? Like, no, I don't want to pull over and fight you, dude. I want you to be smart. I'm like, that's a bad intersection. Yeah. And I'm having this conversation through a window, right? And he just got all emotional and riled up. And finally I was like, dude, it's not worth my time, man. I just want to make sure you can get home safe. And if holding you up behind me did that, then I did what I needed to do. Mm-hmm. And he just took off and followed me all the way home. And I'm like, dude, if you follow me in my neighborhood, it's on. But luckily he didn't. But it's that kind of emotional response that people are so quick to get to, rather than
especially anymore,
calming down and just having a conversation, like understanding why someone is doing what they're doing, understanding why I'm not pulling out into the traffic like that. Mm-hmm. You know, there's reasons. What I do for a living, I see some nasty car accidents. I'm a safe person. I want to go home and see my wife. I want you to go home and see your girlfriend, wife, whatever you have. So I don't take those risks like what a lot of people do.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like anymore, that's the quickest thing that people jump to is that emotional reaction, that state where it's just balls to the walls. You know, it's like, why do you do that?
Yeah.
That's emotionally unstable fucking people, which is probably caused by hormones and whatever else,
or just being unhappy with your life.
Unhappy with your life, and who knows what. But that doesn't mean you take it out on somebody else. Like, if you're unhappy with your life, fucking make it better.
If you're unhappy with your life, start jiu-jitsu. Seriously, you want a way to take out your aggression, and in that way the rest of your life is just totally chill. Mm-hmm. Start jiu-jitsu. There is no better place to take out your aggression in a controlled manner. We're all men. We have aggression. We have stresses. We have things that bother us. When you're able to take those out on the mat in a controlled environment without, not being an asshole.
Right.
It changes your entire perspective of life. I mean, it changes everything about what you do on a daily basis, because you no longer have that built up aggression anymore. Like, you can have the worst day in the world, and if you show up to jiu-jitsu, by the time you leave, you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad of a day. I'm good. Yeah. I'm going to go home and make love to my wife. I mean, everything gets better when you have some kind of outlet that gets that aggression out. It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu. It can be something that, as a man or a woman, if you have that pent-up aggression, find that outlet. Do it. Yeah,
it's whatever it is that gets that negative energy out.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, whether you like it or not, as human beings, we have this propensity to build up negative energy to some degree.
Yeah.
And, it's like in the old days when they were always like, oh, boys will be boys, right? And they were always fighting and picking on each other and, whatever else. I mean, that's what that was.
Yeah.
It was.
It's a necessary thing.
It is a necessary thing for young boys and for men to not only get that that pent up aggression that just builds for no reason at all other than testosterone. I mean, we are built to fight. We are built to build. We are built to compete.
Yep.
You know, so when you're constantly holding that back and you're saying that, oh, well, toxic masculinity, and it's basically telling them that it's wrong to be male, then you have issues.
Oh yeah.
You have real issues.
Yep.
And then you end up with assholes that have to let it out to some poor fucking guy at an intersection.
At an intersection.
That's taking too long to turn.
Without even knowing who that person is.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I'm trying to do you a favor, bro.
Yeah.
Like, if you knew me, you wouldn't talk to me like that.
Yeah, really, man.
I get all my aggression out on the jiu-jitsu mats. That's probably why I'm such a calm person, and I just love everybody. You know, I just have fun with life, and when I get stressed out and things are building up, or I have a bad call at the fire department, need to release some pent up aggression or whatever, that's what jiu-jitsu is about. Or fly fishing. You know, I kind of have a couple different things that I do depending on what I'm going through in my life. Because fire service isn't easy. I mean, you see some pretty fucked up shit.
Yeah, sure.
But anything that is stressing you out, you have to have that single outlet that triggers a response from you to just chill. Calm down. It's okay. Life is good. Like, regroup, focus on what's important. What you just experienced is part of life. It may be a shitty part of life, but you have to carry on, and I have to deal with this. You know, so fly fishing I use for certain things, and usually it's pretty stuff where I just need to be alone and just gather my thoughts. Right. In jiu-jitsu, it's just the frustration of life. You know, that's what's perfect for that, is just any little stressor or any mundane thing that, you know, wouldn't bother most people, or maybe it does to a certain, it just builds up. So you use that. It's kind of more of just a global outlet. But everybody needs it. If they don't have that, and they're just sitting in an office every day and doing the same shit every day, and their stress is just building up, and they have absolutely no outlet, those are the angry people that you have to watch out for, and you get yelled at by in an intersection. Yeah. You know, because they have nothing. Their life is meaningless because they're not doing anything to keep their head right.
Yeah, they're not doing anything to advance themselves or to make themselves, or to grow. Yeah. You know, and they're just stuck on idle in this one place.
They don't know any better because we are ingrained to be stuck almost in that hamster wheel. Mm-hmm. You know, you go to work, you go home. Right. You sleep. That's just the revolving thing that just over and over and over again. That's what you get used to. And
right. But that's comfortable. Yeah. And the problem is they don't realize that you're not supposed to be comfortable. Nope. Not all the time. No. Like it's to be comfortable should be a luxury. Oh yeah. And it's so easy to be comfortable now that you have to have the discipline to turn off the TV and go do something else. Yep. Or to walk away from the video game, or you know, whatever. Yep.
You know when I'm uncomfortable? When I'm uncomfortable is when I have nothing to do. Oh yeah. Drives me nuts. Drives me absolutely freaking nuts. I will pace back and forth if I don't have anything to do. So luckily I have a lot of stuff I can do. Days off for me are almost non-existent. I usually find myself doing something work related, fire department related, jiu-jitsu related, just because that's how I'm wired. And if I don't keep busy, then that's when all those, you know, skeletons in the closet start coming out. All those things that I've had to deal with in the past, they'll start coming out. But
for no reason at all. You're
for no reason.
Man, that one time back in high school, like, why did I do that? Yeah. Yeah. It's like, dude, you're 44. What the fuck are you thinking about that? Who cares?
I know, right? Yeah. Exactly.
Know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. I feel sorry for people that, you know, don't have outlets like jiu-jitsu or any kind of martials. I know that's really tough top. So for everybody listening who's trying to get the top off of a really good bottle of scotch, and it's super loud, really annoying. You probably heard me do it earlier.
It's a hell of a quirk.
Before you put that back on, just pour me a little bit more. That way we don't make even more noise.
Right. Might as well.
Yep. Might as well. Boom.
So you've been a firefighter How long? 9 years?
23.
23 years.
23.
So were you a paramedic that entire time too?
No, I've been a paramedic for the past 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Paramedic is a whole other animal. It's not something that you turn 18 and go right into paramedic school. Mm-hmm. If there is somebody that has done that, yeah, I feel sorry for them. I mean, that's a rough road. There's a lot of things that you really need to be exposed to prior to going to paramedic school in order for you to be, at least for me, I would like to make it a blanket statement, but I'm sure there's some people that if they are a paramedic and they went that route, they're going to be angry if I say that you should be an EMT or an advanced EMT for quite a few years and exposed to a lot of different things before you jump to being a paramedic. In my opinion, the right thing to do is to be exposed first. Go into the fire service, whether it's volunteer or paid, be exposed to what's out there, get comfortable doing the basic stuff as an EMT or an advanced EMT or whatever your state has. And once you have that desire of, I want to do more, I don't like having to turn this patient over to a paramedic. I would much rather be able to treat them myself. That's usually your trigger of when you need to go to paramedic school. And that's what it was for me. I was a very competent advanced EMT. I had been one for quite a few years, but it drove me nuts knowing that there was certain things that I could do for this patient that are critical, that need to be done, but I can't do it because I don't hold that certification. Right. And so going to paramedic, it was 2 years. It's not easy. It is an extremely rough program to go through. It doesn't mean that you have to be super smart, because I am definitely not super smart, but you have to be willing to work, willing to study, willing to learn about things that are very uncomfortable, and know that in the end, when you do have that certification, you're the last line out in the field. There's nobody that you can turn them over to. Mm. When you're an EMT and you're working with a bigger crew and you have paramedics on your crew, you can do what you need to do. And when it's a really nasty call, you have that backup. You have, oh man, well, once that medic gets here, once they come over here, I can give that patient off and wash my hands of it and no longer deal with it. Once you're a medic, you don't have that. There's nobody to turn them over to. Yeah. So it's you. You don't have it's that backup. Yeah. You don't have that backup. It's on you. Yeah. And the things that you get to do as a paramedic are fun. They're exciting. And we get to do a lot of things that are just, I don't even really know how to explain it. It's invasive, whether it's, doing a cricothyrotomy on somebody, cutting their throat open in an emergency situation, giving all kinds of meds without permission, having to call up a physician and say, hey, can I give this? We have a lot of autonomy, drilling into people's bones and putting the IO in there and, darting chests and just all the stuff that when you're able to do those things in the field, it makes you feel like you're doing your job. You're doing something for somebody instead of just trying to keep them alive or hoping that they stay alive until you can get them into definitive care at the hospital. You're pretty much done all the work that they would do in a hospital. So once you turn them over, it's just a matter of the hospital managing their care from there. And it's tough when you're not at that level, you're limited. But once you are at that level, you're the guy and people rely on you and you have to know what you're doing. And there's a lot of risk to it, but it's very rewarding. It's rewarding on those really bad calls when you've kept somebody alive all the way to the hospital and you've done everything right. But it sucks when you've done everything right and things go wrong. Mm-hmm. So you just have to tackle with those demons throughout your career. And then when you've done everything right and you still don't have the outcome that you would like, it wears on you. Especially when it's kids. Those are the ones that really mess us up and still mess me up to this day. I'm sure. I think my worst call was a pediatric, and that is actually the day that I could not wait to retire. And that was quite a few years ago. But it was one of those sad cases where me and my team did everything right. It was It was a call that, everybody worked their ass off and did exactly what needed to be done. And it didn't matter what we did. The prognosis was not going to be good. And that's tough to deal with, kids mess you up, and you can never return to your former self after kids. It ruins you. And you constantly have to deal with that on a daily basis, not only remembering their faces, but remembering and wondering if you could have done something else. And you're constantly reminding yourself there was nothing else that you could have done. And it beats the shit out of you. But yet adults, I'm sorry, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
When you go a career and you've seen hundreds, maybe even thousands of dead bodies, adults, it doesn't hurt you as much as kids do.
Yeah.
But it's a profession that unless you're doing it, you just will never understand what it's like. Most people go their entire life without ever seeing one dead body. We see thousands throughout our career, and we're immune to it, except for those small cases where, it's children or something just super crazy, the ones that go, holy crap, I got a story to tell you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, it's definitely a tough career to be in, but it's also made me who I am. As long as I keep my emotions in check and I realize that what may not affect me affects other people that have never been exposed to what I've been exposed to in 23 years, then I'm okay. Because, we get pretty immune to a lot of stuff. So even with our kids, if our kid breaks an arm, we're pretty nonchalant about it. No big deal. All right, we know what to do. Our wife's freaking out, and
relax. It's gonna be
have
fine.
to recognize that there's a big difference on your emotional response to those type of emergency things. And that differs from the general public.
Right.
And you have to recognize that. Otherwise, you are just taken as a person that is very cold and unemotional. Well, to some degree, we are. It's not that we're not. It's not that we're not internalizing it,
right,
but we're not showing it.
Mm-hmm.
We're able to recognize that there is an emotional aspect to it, but we're able to suppress it because we've seen it so many times that we become immune to it. But that doesn't mean it's not going to affect us after the call.
Yeah.
We just are forced to keep our shit together
so you can get through the situation right then and deal with it.
Yeah, because
if you fucking go to shit while you're trying to work on some guy and you can't do it, well, then it's all for nothing.
Yep. We have to have that critical thinking in the emergency situation. But what happens afterwards, it is what it is. If you completely lose your shit, that's okay.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of firemen lose their shit. I've lost my shit after a really bad call. It's human nature. But during the actual incident, we're really good at not showing those emotions and doing what needs to be done. And that's just not something people understand.
Yeah.
So we get labeled as very cold and not emotional and not giving a shit. Well, no, you just don't get it. Trust me, we care.
Yeah.
We just internalize it. We push it down. We push it really far down.
I'm going to cry about this later with a really good bottle of whiskey.
I know,
just
right?
Not right now.
And that's, I actually got into that. I went down that rabbit hole for quite a few years and just drinking every day. And, I enjoy a nice scotch every once in a while. I keep a nice bottle of scotch in my office, but how we're drinking here that's the extent to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go out with people and drink. I don't drink at home. I just enjoy, a nice finger of scotch and chilling. But a lot of firemen do find themselves in that place where they go a couple of years where, drinking is a big thing. And a lot of it is because they just don't have any other way of managing their emotions besides drinking.
Yeah.
And drinking in the fire service is acceptable, which is unfortunate. Nothing else is acceptable. All the other things that actually work for dealing with your emotions and PTSD and everything else, those are all frowned upon. But alcohol, for some reason, that's such a traditional thing that if you have the shakes because you've been drinking on your days off and you come into work with the shakes, well, it looks like you had a good 4 days off. It's okay. But if you hear of anybody that's going off and doing, any of these retreats with psilocybin or any of these other things that have been, or ketamine clinics or whatever else that have been shown to work, well, that's frowned upon. It's just a really weird dynamic. So I've done really good with not going back down that rabbit hole with alcohol, but I definitely enjoy a good scotch every once in a while.
Yeah. It's more of just a leisure thing now versus, trying to drown things or cover things up.
And I'm just too goddamn busy.
Right. Time to drink.
I mean, if I wasn't here, I'd probably be in the office on a day off doing inventory on something.
Yeah.
Even though it's a Sunday. It's sad. It's sad.
I don't know. That's necessarily sad. I mean, doing what you got to do, man.
Yep. Doing what I got to do.
There's nothing wrong with that. You're putting in the effort and the time and you're making it work. And keeping yourself busy. You're one of those people that can't sit still. That's okay.
No. I mean, at least I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really do things that I dislike. I try and surround myself with things that I enjoy doing. I don't want to go through life miserable. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
What about, what about therapy and stuff like that? Is that like a bugaboo for firefighters, or?
It's been a bugaboo for a really long time.
I mean, it's still kind of a bugaboo. It is generally amongst the public, but
yeah, it's definitely gotten better over the years. There's been a lot more support groups. But what they've done is they realized that for the longest time, they were recommending you go talk to somebody that was never in the fire service. So they had no idea, they're just a therapist or a counselor that doesn't understand what we go through. Mm-hmm. First responders in general. I'm not just talking about fire department. I'm talking about police officers. I'm talking about military. I'm talking about anybody who is in a first responder role.
Right.
We cannot talk to people who don't understand what we do because they will never be able to help us. And anybody who has not done what we do and they think they can help us, they are sorely wrong because we are a whole nother breed. If you've never experienced even just to a small degree of what we go through when we go to work, how can you help us? You don't get it.
Yeah. Well, it's very similar to veterans.
Yeah, exactly. So
unless you've been in the shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what they've done,
really understand it.
What they've done is they've recognized that, and the counselors nowadays, or the different groups that you can be involved in, or if you have a really significant call and they bring some people in to talk to you, they are retired fire or police.
Nice.
They get it. They've been there before, and so they found out that more firemen and police were willing to talk. Because before it was just suppress it, internalize it, deal with it, quit being a bitch. I don't know what your problem is. It's not that big of a deal. But they recognize that was causing more problems than what it was worth. So they've definitely made a lot of progress with that, but there still is that stigma. Yeah. And it's sad that it's there. But luckily most fire departments in general, the shift that you work with, you become friends with. I know we talked about the brotherhood thing before. That's kind of non-existent, but you still have those people that you trust that you can speak freely with.
Right.
And you can kind of vent, say, hey, man, fuck, that's kind of messing me up. I don't know. I really don't know how to deal with it. And that's usually what, traditionally firemen have done is they sit around the table and they talk about those bad calls, and that usually is good enough. But when you didn't have that, that's when there was a lot of problems that came. But the fire service in general has gotten good that when you have those really bad calls, a lot of the ones that are, like I said, this is mostly all kids. When those calls come in, they will typically try and hire back and replace that entire shift so that shift can go home. Because they're a hot mess for the next 24 hours. Or, some can deal with it a little bit better than others and they'll stay on shift. Others will be like, dude, that was the same age of my son. I got to go home,
Yeah. That's probably pretty fucking rough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really rough. So, but I mean, I've been around long enough to where I have seen definitely some improvement and progress. But that was based off of a lot of failures by, the department not taking care of some of those things.
Yeah.
Not recognizing that there was people that needed help. I'm a prime example. When I dealt with a really significant pediatric call, there was not one single person after that was like, dude, how you doing? I didn't have anybody give a shit. In all honesty, it messed me up.
Yeah.
Like, really messed me up. I'm still messed up to this day. I can still see her face. I can still imagine her pigtails. Like it fucked me up. Right. And that's how it used to always be in the fire service, where people just felt that you should internalize everything and not get emotional. It's just part of the job and it shouldn't affect you like that. Well, it does. Whether you have a kid that's aged, that is that age or not. I mean, I have grandkids that were this little girl's age. But I've been able to deal with it in my own way. It just would have been nice to have, some kind of support system from my fire department when that did happen. But you're definitely seeing more of that support system now.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have it back then, though.
Oh, yeah.
You had
absolutely.
somebody that you could actually talk to that, like you said, has been there.
Yeah. And would it have helped? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Talking to someone, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I imagine that's something that, like you said, you're going to carry around forever. It's not something that just goes away.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's always good to be able to talk and to get things out. And yeah, there always is that question of, what could I have done different? Well, if I had done this, maybe this person had lived or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, you can think about that stuff all you want, but if you just beat yourself up over it, you're not going to get any better.
No.
I mean, there has to come a point where there comes, an acceptance and be able to just move along. Not that you're going to forget and not that you ever should. It's the experiences of life that make us who we are, and form us and help us make decisions maybe in the future, but to be able to get it out and to talk to somebody about it and just vent and just say something. I mean, that's a huge thing. It's important.
Oh yeah. Yep. Everybody needs it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why are we talking about depressing shit, bro?
I don't know.
No more depressing shit.
Well, so I imagine there's calls where you go to where you think that it's going to turn out bad, and maybe in all cases it should, but then for whatever reason, everything goes fine.
Oh yeah. And a lot of that's just pure luck. Yeah. I mean, everything should be going wrong, but yet somehow, whether it's just because of how we plan to deal with it or just pure luck, it works out okay. What we do is not normal.
Yeah.
It really is not normal. There's not anything that we do that makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. People shouldn't be doing the things that they're doing that make us have to respond to them and bail them out of that situation. Granted, there's medical stuff is a whole different realm. I mean, people get sick, people have heart attacks. That's just your normal stuff, but it's the stupidity of people that we have to deal with, and they put themselves in this messed up position, and now we're the ones having to try and figure out how to get them out of it.
Right.
And some go great, some don't go so well, but at the end of the day, did we put him in that position? Absolutely not.
Right.
When I remember back in, I think it was 2001. Yeah, 2001, when I was going through my advanced EMT class, one of the instructors said, look, as long as you remember that you are here to fix a machine, and there's only so much you can do to fix that machine, then you will be okay.
Yeah.
Because you're not the reason that the machine broke down. You're just here to try and fix it. If you don't have the tools necessary to fix that machine, why are you blaming yourself?
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, that kind of stuck with me. I was like, okay, that makes sense. And that works on most every type of patient or any type of situation. Unfortunately, that doesn't work for kids.
Yeah.
There's nothing that justifies having to deal with kids and the emotional response to kids.
Yeah.
But as far as adults go and some of the other situations that we're in, as long as you keep that in the back of your head, you're fine. It's like, it is what it is. It sucks, but I did all I can do, Right.
Well, yeah. And it sucks that people, so if you want to learn more about me, it sucks that people are stupid and do things that put you in a situation where you have to go out there and fix them.
What'd you do?
No, I didn't do anything. I'm not saying I'm not for depopulating the earth and stuff like that. All I'm saying is that I believe that Mother Nature has a great way of getting rid of things that aren't supposed to be here, including us.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
So I think a huge part of where we have gotten today as a society is far too many helmet laws and far too many stickers on the sides of toasters. Don't use in bathtub.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's some people who are not supposed to be on our team who are still here because we can't accept that not everyone's supposed to be saved.
Yep.
That's all.
Yeah. It's a good way of, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
If you want to make toast in the bathtub because that's your favorite thing to do, I mean, have at it, man. But I'm not going to be sad when the inevitable happens.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be here because that's not a good idea.
No, definitely not. No, but hey, I got 9 years left, and then when that's all over, it'll be a good life. You know, like I still enjoy what I do, but at some point you've done enough. That's kind of where I'm at. Is I've done enough.
Yeah,
I've helped. I would like to think I have helped a lot of people, and I would like to think that I've done a really good job for the fire service. And at the end of the 9 years, I hope that I'm able to accomplish even more. I hope the next 9 years are very good for me in the fire service, and I can make a difference because, I finally had to accept, last year that shit, man, I'm the old guy. It's really weird.
You're that dude.
I'm that dude. It's really strange, because we have guys that are starting out that are younger than my oldest child. And that was when I had the epiphany. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the fucking old guy of the fire department now. And, these guys have 20, 30 years left of their career. I have 9. What can I do for them? Because the one thing that I always wanted when I was their age is some kind of mentor, someone who could show me the way, teach me all the things that I need to know to prepare myself for a 30-year career in the fire service. Not just look at those 9 years or whatever you have left and do your own thing, but actually be an important part of the fire department and build these guys up to where they have a successful career. And that's where I'm at. Like that's what I should be doing right now. And I'm looking forward to what I can do in the next 9 years for these guys. But it's a really weird thing to accept that you're now the old person.
Yeah.
You're the old fireman. You're the crusty old fireman. It's just weird. It's a weird feeling to be in because I would like to still think that I'm young and, I'm energetic and, but I'm not.
Well, yeah, but do you still, in some way, feel young and energetic?
Well, absolutely, because I own a business that keeps me feeling very youthful. And, I joke around and I tell people that I'm the sexiest grandpa you're ever going to meet. Like I have 4 grandkids at 44 years old and, I look pretty goddamn good for being 44, at least in my opinion. But it's also taken a lot of work too. So, I'm just not sitting around doing absolutely nothing. And I have a lot of cheat codes, because of the business that I own.
But that takes work in general. For anybody.
Does. It absolutely does.
Yeah. If you're just sitting around eating candy all day and, not taking care of yourself, then you're going to look like shit by 44.
Yep. Exactly. But yeah, that was a weird realization to have is that I'm now the old crusty fireman in the fire service. And, but that gives me motivation to do what I wasn't able to have when I was that age. And that is a mentor. Yeah. I hope that there's some of these guys that are looking at me as that mentor and I can provide them with some good information on how to especially keep their mental health in check. I can teach skills all day long, but how are you going to deal with it in your head? Yeah. How are you going to deal with those bad calls? What is your outlet? Those are things that we do a poor job preparing our firemen for is how to deal with the emotional response from these bad calls. But everybody is different and you really don't know how they're going to deal with this stuff until it actually happens. But just knowing that I've set up that structure to begin with, that if we do have that kind of call, I'm the first person you should come to because we can sit down and we can talk about it. If you want to cry in front of me, dude, I will be right there with you, man. We'll hug it out. Like I have no barriers to your emotional response. Like you need to do what you need to do, and I'm going to support you 100%. Like there's no ego involved in this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to be for these guys, not this, burnout fireman that hates his job and is just waiting for his retirement and doesn't give a shit about the rest of the department and is just collecting a paycheck. I never want to be that person, because I watch that. I see that with our own department. I haven't had a mentor for probably 15 years while I've been in the fire service. The prior to that, I had a really good mentor, and I'm still really good friends with, but he retired, fortunately, and now I don't have him anymore. So I don't want other people to have to deal with what I dealt with. Mm-hmm. And I think my best gift as I make my departure is to make sure that I'm remembered as someone that was there to help you out, was there to be a good mentor.
Yeah. Well, you were saying earlier that most of those other jobs that you did before now were kind of just leading you up to, or working towards the opportunity of being a fireman.
Yeah.
So now that you've had it and you've been doing it for 23 years, so it kind of just, I mean, I get the idea that you're kind of over it, but not in the fact that you're burnt out and done and you just don't want to do it anymore. It's just almost like a goal, mm-hmm. and you've accomplished it. Yeah. And you've been there. And so now what you're saying is that having accomplished this goal and been doing it as long as you have and seen the things that you've seen and all of that you're kind of just on the ride, but you're not giving up. You're looking into it as having a new goal.
Correct.
Moving towards the end.
Yep.
And so now that you've been there, done that, okay, I could leave right now, but you're going to stay because, yeah, you've got great benefits and all this other stuff, but now you're going to turn it into an opportunity. And that opportunity is to help these new guys coming in. Yeah.
Well, the alternative is to be what I told you I witnessed. And that's that crusty burnout fireman that does absolutely nothing for his crew.
Yeah.
And just is waiting for retirement. I refuse to be that. So at some point you have to accept the fact that you are here, and for whatever remaining time that you have left, that's when you're supposed to be imparting that wisdom. Even if it's just a small amount, even if it's just dealing with mental health or, simple as, extrication or rope rescue, high angle rescue or anything that is, whatever you're passionate about. You want to make sure that that is carried on after you leave. And when you start losing sight of what you can give to the younger generation firefighters, you're not going to be remembered. Mm. And I'm not saying that I have an ego as to where I want to be remembered after I leave the fire service. It's not that. I don't really give a shit about that. But if there's one person that says, hey, you know what? I remember when Foti was here and it was pretty rad. He showed us this thing. That's all I care about. It doesn't have to be, he was the greatest at this.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that, putting your face on a mural or something.
It's that I made some kind of commitment.
You made a difference
to their progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You made a difference in some way, and you helped somebody, and you passed along knowledge that's now hopefully going to keep getting passed.
Yep. Instead of the alternative, who was that guy? Oh, he was where? Don't even know who his name. Yeah. He did nothing for that department, so why would I remember him?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when you leave the fire service, it's not what you expect from TV where, you're always still part of the group. You get this big old standing ovation when you leave. It's honestly, when you're out of the fire service, because I've watched this over the years, when you retire, you're not really important anymore.
Yeah.
You're not being invited to get-togethers. You're gone. You're retired.
Go home and you don't come back.
You go home and you don't come back.
Yeah.
But if there's that one person that can remember something that I showed them or something that I did for the department, then it all makes it worth it. Otherwise, why did I spend, at that point, 30 plus years dedicated to a single job? Who wants to be at a job for 30 years and not leave anything?
Yeah.
That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We all want to be remembered for something, and it should be something positive.
Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's not, did you really do anything?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not the person that necessarily wants to leave a legacy behind of any means, but I mean, something would be cool.
Yeah. My legacy revolves around making sure that my kids are provided for after I'm gone.
Yeah.
That's what I care about. You know, I don't have kids that followed in my footsteps and wanted to be firemen. You know, they're all off doing their own thing. So I know my legacy is not going to be, you know, I designed a family that revolved around the fire service. Now I have this generational fire thing. I'm not going to have that.
Yeah.
I accept that. But if my legacy can be that I left my kids in a better place, then it's worth it to me. You know, I'm not going to, I don't want to leave them while they're in a bunch of debt. I don't want to give them a bunch of debt, but if I can leave them a business that they can control or even reap the benefits from, perfect. I'm golden. Or my pension or whatever it might be. That's why I do everything that I do now, is not only to make sure that if I was to die tomorrow, my wife is taken care of, but ultimately it's to make sure that my kids are taken care of so that they're better set for the rest of their life than what I was.
Right.
Because I had to work my ass off for everything that I did. I grew up in a great family, middle class. My dad worked his butt off. My mom worked and took care of us. Like, I grew up right. But when I started out as at 18, it was nothing but a struggle. I had to do everything for myself. So I wasn't given anything. At 18, it was like, hey, here you go. Here's the world. Have fun. You know, I wasn't given a car. My shit wasn't paid for. I had to pay for everything myself. And I want to make sure that my kids can reap the benefits from how hard I worked, while still knowing that they still have to produce that same amount of work for themselves.
Right. Yeah, you're trying to teach them, like, hey, this is what I did and it was hard as shit, and this is how you should be doing it. Yep. But here's a little something.
Here's a little something, and now when you are at my age, you're going to be able to give back to your kids.
Yeah.
And just continue that process.
Yeah.
Always instill in your children that they need to work for everything they have, because that teaches them so much in life, but work towards an ultimate goal of still being able to give back to your family when you're gone.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense to me.
I like it. Sounds right for me. I mean, why not? I mean, otherwise, why the hell am I working myself to death?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't do this for myself, because I'm taking time away from a lot of things that I could be doing. My life does not revolve around my personal agenda. It revolves around how can I take care of my family and my grandkids. It's weird to start thinking about that at 44 years old, but life is precious, man. I mean, you just don't know. And it's not to be like super negative or anything, because most people don't think about this till they're 60, 70 years old. But in the career that I'm in, there's a risk to everything. And I know that's super dark, and I hope that nothing happens to me in the next 9 years. But the reality is there is the potential for it. So how can I better set my family up to be okay?
Right.
And primarily my wife, because she's going to be the first person that is super affected by all this financially. So I have made sure that I set myself up to where she can still live the way we live now without me here. I think I have like 4 life insurance policies just for that reason. And that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I think I will be okay with that line of thinking, you know, because it's not, to me, it doesn't feel self-serving. I wish it was. I mean, I wish I was a little bit selfish in that regard, and kind of not worrying about the sacrifices that I make for other people. But at the same time, that's really not how I'm wired. I care more about other people than I do myself. So, and my biggest fear is making sure that my wife can have the life that we have now if something was to happen to me.
I think there's numerous ways of looking at it. I mean, does thinking that your family wouldn't be taken care of with you gone, does that cause you stress and grief?
Absolutely.
Okay. So in that case, you're not doing it just to get rid of the stress and grief. You're doing it because you want them taken care of, but obviously them being taken care of gets rid of that stress and grief.
Yep. Yeah. See that vicious cycle?
Yeah.
It's a vicious cycle. Absolutely.
So it is, It is in some form a little bit of selfishness.
Yeah.
But it's not because of that, why you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Vicious cycle. Absolutely.
Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Sometimes it's good to be a little bit selfish.
Yeah.
And if it happens to benefit others, well, great.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I think the only thing that I'm really selfish over is making sure that I find time for jiu-jitsu. That's the one thing that
yeah, but that's taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are times when you have to be selfish.
Oh yeah.
You know, because if you're not taking care of yourself and you're not putting yourself in the right state of mind and the right headspace and filling up your cup, well, then you're just going to be an asshole anyway. So
it's true. Yeah.
It's important to be a little selfish sometimes and say, you know what? No, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for me.
I'm sure I'm more selfish than what I claim. I'm sure the wife would have something to say about that.
Oh, same here.
You know, I mean,
I'm pretty selfish. I am.
As long as it's selfish for the right reasons. We're trying.
Trying for the most part. For the most part.
Yeah.
Not asshole selfish necessarily, but some would say that I'm not very thoughtful with other people's time.
Oh.
And that's valid. I'm very selfish with my time.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times I'm usually kind of one track, zoned in. When I get zoned in on something that I really want or something that I want to do or that I'm interested in, it's like tunnel vision, and that is what I'm on until it is done.
I do the same thing.
And I will work on it till 2 a.m. until I'm so tired I can't see anymore, or until I accept defeat for the day.
My wife would say I am exactly like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's, I can be very selfish with my time and often forget things. It's like, oh shit, that's right. I had to go do this at 5:00.
Yeah.
You're late. I know. I'm sorry.
That's why I live by my calendar on my phone.
Yeah. I started doing that in the last year. I started using my calendar all the time.
If
anything that's important, I punch it in there. It's like, okay.
Yep.
5:00 Friday. You got it.
Yep. Yeah. You're second on my agenda today.
Yeah.
I've already taken care of one thing.
There you go. But it's good though, because then it still alleviates that stress and grief over having to worry about what you have to do during the day.
Yeah. Because the reality is if I wasn't doing this or the other things that I have on my schedule today, I would be going nuts because I would have nothing to do.
Yeah.
So I design my schedule to consistently have things to do every single day of the week.
Yeah.
Every day. Even when I've been up for 48 hours straight at the fire station, I have stuff planned after 0800 that I get off that morning because I have to keep busy. Now, granted, that first day that I'm home, it's not so tedious. You know, it's usually stuff that if my mind's, if I'm so tired, my brain isn't working that great. It's stuff that doesn't require a lot of, mental aptitude. But I'm still busy because I'm not going to go home and I'm not going to go to sleep.
Right.
I could try, but I know myself well enough to where whenever I do try to do that, I just stare at the TV all day long and drive myself nuts because I'm not doing anything. So I purposely schedule things on the days that I'm getting off, and it doesn't matter what happens the 2 days prior of how much I'm up. I stick to that schedule, and that's just how I roll. I've gotten so used to it, and that's how I operate in without driving myself nuts because I have nothing to do. I just can't do it. So instead of that, what I do is I just plan 2 trips every year, and that pulls me away from everything.
There you go.
So the wife and I mean, we actually just got back from Florida a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. But those trips are designed so that I completely separate from everything else.
Yeah.
Yep.
You take yourself completely out of work and
everything,
business and all that.
Absolutely. Yep. And I mean, it's good for the wife. I mean, it's what we should be doing anyways, but that is how I escape my busyness. I have to go out of state. I have to go somewhere else. And then I can finally turn that switch off in my head and go, I'm on vacation mode. Nobody's going to bug me. If I want to do something on the laptop while I'm on vacation, cool. But it's a choice then, and not feeling like I have to.
Yeah. Isn't that weird how distance makes a difference?
Weird, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because if I take a staycation for, longer than 3 days, like if I took a couple of weeks off and I just stay at home and don't go anywhere, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I should be at work right now.
Yep.
And I'll sit around like chewing on my nails, like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? But if I go somewhere, then it's like, cool, give me a drink and let me sit down.
Yep. That's exactly what we did. It was 11 days in Florida. It was beautiful and it was perfect.
Nice.
Just sitting on the beach almost every single day and not even worrying about what was going on back home.
Yeah.
I knew that my staff was set up good enough to where they didn't need me. And if it was critical, then yeah, I'd probably get a phone call. And I think I only got one phone call during the entire 11 days. And that was perfect. It's perfect.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you do it, man.
I know. I have figured shit out over the years.
Yeah. I know a guy who, he started literally putting everything on a calendar. So he put a calendar up on his fridge at one point because, so I actually knew him from our men's group, and we went through a couple of sessions talking about scheduling things and trying to de-stress your life and things like that. And one of the things that we talked about was, putting things into a calendar, basically taking off the mental stress of having to remember everything. So it's all right here. It's in this calendar. I don't have to think about what I'm doing on Friday at 3:00 because it's on this calendar. And if I just do what's on the calendar, then I don't have to worry about it. I just go do it.
Yep.
I don't have to remember it. I don't have to try and think of other things to do for the rest of the week because they're already on there. So this guy took it to the next level, and he put his entire life on this calendar, all the way down to cutting his toenails at night before he goes to bed.
That's a little extreme.
It's a little extreme for me too, but I'll tell you what, this guy, after he started doing that, I had never seen anybody more zen than him.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have to think about anything. He just went by this calendar. Oh, it's Thursday at 4 p.m. I'm going to cut my toenails.
Wow.
Like, that was it.
I can kind of see the...
And I think, if I remember right, his wife kind of, got a little bit on it too. I don't think she went as crazy as he did, but they both synced their calendars up, and that's just kind of how they started living. It's like, okay, well, I think he went to a gym too, so he's like, oh, I got jujitsu Wednesday at 3, so okay, I'm gonna do that. And then she was like, okay, well, you're doing that at 3, so I'm doing this. Yeah. And that's just how they started rolling. And according to him, man, it was like night and day difference, not only in how they both felt on their own personally, but like in their marriage and everything else.
Yeah. My calendar is shared with the wife, and hers is shared with mine. So she knows exactly what I'm doing every single day. Yep. And yeah, when you put it like that, that is probably why things have worked out so well. 'Cause she knows where I'm at pretty much at all times and why I'm busy, right, and when to expect me, so she can work her schedule around that. Or it's kind of nice. Yeah
I try to, anything important, like doing podcasts and stuff, I'll share it with my girlfriend's calendar so she knows what's going on.
So she doesn't walk in.
Easier.
So she doesn't walk in.
No, I don't care if she'd walk in if she wanted to, but
she can join the conversation. Yeah.
No, just so she knows what's going on. She's at work all day today, but like if it was for some reason she had a day off, she would know. Oh, well, he's going to be busy from this time, so it just makes things easier. Yeah. But see, the only thing with me is, and I don't know if it's a weird thing, but I'm very private when it comes to certain things, and so when it comes to just time for myself, I don't want anybody knowing what I'm doing.
You're not married.
Not anymore. No.
When you're married, you don't have time for yourself. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. You should always have time for yourself to some degree. Yeah. And even if it's 5 minutes.
It's true. I know. I joke around that, and it's jiu-jitsu that really gives me that outlet. And the wife has been great. She's always understood that that's my outlet, and she respects it and has never questioned any time that I wanted to go. Yeah. She deals with me coming home at 8:30 at night if I've stayed to roll live afterwards. And hey, if she wants to cook dinner, well, guess what? I'm eating it cold. We know that's my choice. Yep. And if she does cook dinner, which is a rarity, but she knows, cook at the time that she want to eat, because don't go off of my schedule. Right. Otherwise, that's just a dick move by me. I'm not going to force you to eat at 8:30 at night. That's fucked up. It's when I don't know what she's doing, or I ask her, I'm like, so where are you going? And she goes, it's in the fucking calendar. I mean, look, I guess it is. My bad. That's really the only arguments we have over schedules. But otherwise, we both have our own our little outlets and things that we do, and we put everything in the calendar. So I love it.
Yeah, I think it's important for everybody to have outlets. I think it's important to stick to them as best as you can.
Yeah.
That personal time, that time to yourself, no matter what it is. I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah.
But even if it's something that maybe involves your partner, but if it's that one thing that you want to do that relieves stress and makes you happy, you got to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
For me, it's writing.
Yeah.
Which sucks because now there's snow on the ground and it's cold. So my bikes are in the garage, but
yeah. Guess you got to figure out something to do in the wintertime then.
Which is usually playing guitar, reading, or doing podcasts.
Apparently you're not the type that wants to actually do anything outdoors in the winter.
I'm not a huge outdoorsy
I just gathered that
person.
From you. I just gathered that off the list of things that you do during the wintertime. Nothing was outdoors.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense why I live in northern Idaho because I hate cold. Yeah. And it's cold here quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But my girlfriend, she's a big snowboarder. So I got a snowboard. I got bindings. We just went and looked at boots yesterday, actually. So I'm getting my gear together, and we're gonna go hit the mountains this year. So
nice. That's what the wife and I do.
Yep. She's gonna get me out, get me hurt. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, go on the right day, and you don't get hurt no matter how hard you fall. You're fine. You're fine. My wife just started learning a couple years ago, and oh man, she sucks. But man, it's so much fun to finally have something that we do together. Yeah. I'm the worst teacher, but I think anytime you're in a relationship, it's hard for one or the other to teach someone how to do something. Right. And so trying to teach her is pretty miserable, but she's picking it up on her own. And then when I have friends that come with us who were snowboard instructors, she listens to them really well, and she's really having a lot of fun. We just don't have the opportunity to do it, multiple times through the winter. But it's something that we really need to work on because I recognize that that's something that she loves to do. Mm-hmm. And we really don't have a whole lot of things that we do together at all. It's almost like we have two lives, but we come together at a certain point. Right. And that's worked for, we've been married we just celebrated 17 years. So obviously we're doing something right. Yeah. Your wavelengths. Our wavelength. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. We do our own things during the day and we don't really have anything that we do together. We don't work out together. She doesn't do jiu-jitsu. She does her tanning and her beauty stuff, and I do all my extracurricular activities, and somehow it all works because we meet together in the end when it's the most important. Yeah. We've tried doing CrossFit together, and it's not her thing. She would never even touch jiu-jitsu, so that's not her thing. She doesn't like to fly fish. Not her thing, but she'll be out in the woods. Right. So you kind of find these little compromises, and it's all just worked out. Yeah. But see, I've found just from talking to people that I know, that are married and stuff like that, it seems like some of the greatest marriages work because you don't have a lot in common. Yeah. You don't spend a whole lot of time together doing whatever it is that you do. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. No. And especially with that old adage, distance makes the heart grow fonder. Yeah. Yeah. And she's dealt with it for a lot of years with me being gone for 48 hours straight. Yeah. And we don't work good together. So she's never really been a part of my business because we knew pretty quickly that working together was just not fun. Yeah. It was very difficult to separate, mostly for her. That, this is my business. It's not yours. You're here to help out, and don't fucking talk to me that way. That kind of stuff. We're going to do it this way. It's difficult for people to it's like church and state, right? Like it's hard for people to separate, oh, you're my boss. Mm-hmm. We have a friendly rapport and all that, and we could go out and have beers, and maybe I'll even help you work on your car. But when we're at work, I'm your boss. Oh, yeah. So when I tell you to do something, I expect you to do it. I'm not going to let you half-ass it. Yep. And if you fuck around, I'm going to fire you. Yep. Exactly.
Doesn't mean I don't like you.
Oh yeah, exactly. So we knew a couple years ago that it just wasn't going to work, and it was totally fine. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah. But I think that's probably especially difficult for people that are married, or just for couples in general. You know, because you start working together, and even though at the beginning you may look at that as like, okay, it's your thing, blah blah blah, but then at some point you're like, oh, well, if you love me, how could you? And they may not verbalize that, but that's how they think, right? And not just women, guys too.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you talk to me like that? Blah, blah, blah. Because I'm your fucking boss when we're here, like it or not.
Yep. Yeah. Didn't go over well. But we're good. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be rough. I don't know that I would want to start a business with my significant other.
I wouldn't recommend it.
I think it takes a very specific type of people in order to be able to handle that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people that are in business together, and they do really well.
Yeah. I mean, I think I could. I just don't know that I'd want to.
Yeah.
You know, more drama than it's worth.
True.
Not that you can't handle it. It's just why.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yep.
It's like you never loan friends and family money. You just give it to them if you can. Don't expect it back.
No, you'll never get it back. Try having kids. You'll learn that very quickly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I can loan you $200. All right. Well, I'll never see that again.
Yeah. Loan. What's that?
And then eventually they do surprise you. And we're like, hey, here's the money that we loaned from you. It's like, might as well just keep it. I wrote that off a long time ago.
Right. No, I don't need it.
I appreciate you even trying to pay me back, but now it's become a gift.
It's the thought that counts. Yep.
Oh man. Good times.
Yeah. So what has been, one more question for you. We can probably wrap this up pretty soon. We've been going at it for like almost 2.5 hours.
Nice.
Yeah. What has been the greatest moment for you being a firefighter and or paramedic?
Probably delivering a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of all the things that I've done, all the things that I've seen, there's only one thing that you can do in the fire service that is actually bringing life into this world, and that's delivering a baby. You know, for everything that we see life leaving this world, or anything we do on the fire side, you know, structure fires and even rescuing people, they're already alive. They're already here.
Yeah.
But when you're physically bringing a baby into the world, that's something that firemen can go their entire career without ever doing, or they never want to do it. So they're never going to be the first one going, hey, let's make this happen. It's something that I've always wanted to do. It was one of those things that didn't gross me out. I was waiting for that opportunity, and it took, I want to say 20 years before I finally had that opportunity, and best experience of my life. I was actually in front of the fire station in her car, and there was just no way she was going to make it down to the hospital. And I delivered this beautiful little baby girl, and pretty fortunate to where she actually was one of our clients at my business for quite some time. So I got to see the little girl and see her. And, but yeah, I don't think anything will ever replace that. You know, I've been close plenty of times. I've never actually caught the baby. It was usually we would get dispatched, and when you'd show up, the baby was already delivered. So you would just cut the umbilical cord and do patient care from there. But this was the first time that it was from the beginning, you know, catching and, you know, cutting. And then, you know, this particular child had Down syndrome. So it was rough as far as, you know, it's an APGAR score, and it is when they finally are getting enough oxygen and they're turning normal colors. She wasn't getting to that point because of being born with Down syndrome. When you're born with Down syndrome, you have an enlarged tongue. Yeah. So it kind of blocks your airway a little bit. So she was a challenge from delivery all the way to the hospital with ensuring that her respiratory drive was adequate. And there was quite a few moments that we were pretty concerned, but as we explained earlier, you know, you kind of got to keep your shit together, and mom's there, and everything worked out well, but there was definitely some scary points. But ultimately we delivered a healthy baby that is still alive. She's thriving. She's in a great family, and I'll never forget that. But, you know, I mean, it's also the ones you don't forget because you weren't prepared for it. It's not like you were dispatched to it, you know? such and such fire department for, a birth, you have time to prepare from the time you get toned out to in the vehicle to driving to the call, getting everything ready, getting your mind ready, and dealing with the situation right there. When they show up at the station and you have no pre-warning whatsoever, you are purely going off of straight instinct. It is pandemonium. It's very uncomfortable to be set up like that with that kind of call. I didn't even have gloves on. That's how unprepared we were, because it was literally a ring of the doorbell of the fire station, husband saying, she's about to have the baby. We need help.
So like they knew they weren't going to make it to the hospital, and they just drove to the fire station.
Absolutely.
Like, somebody's got to do this.
Someone's got to do this. And she was ready.
Damn.
Oh yeah. And me being who I am, I don't mind that stuff.
You're like, I got it.
I was like, I got this. In fact, I think I was pushing people away. I got this. But that was definitely the most exciting thing that I've done in the fire service. I've done some really cool things, really cool calls that, you step back and go, that was very technical. That was a pretty cool rescue, lot involved with that kind of stuff, but nothing will compare to catching and seeing a brand new baby and going, I just delivered this little thing. I'm the first person it's looking at. I mean, that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll never forget that one. And honestly, in 9 years, I hope I do another one. I really do.
Sweet.
Yeah. But the vast majority of firemen want to have nothing to do with it.
Really?
I'm unique. Yeah. Cause primarily most firemen are men. They don't want to deal with that kind of stuff, where I guess I'm just a little different. Just because of what it means. Yes, it's gross. It's not necessarily a pleasant experience.
Yeah, the beauty of childbirth is drastically over.
But when you can look past that and look at the substance of it, of what you're actually doing, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
And that was probably my proudest moment. And it probably always will be. Of all the things that I've done, that one will always stick with me. It's pretty rad.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming in and thanks for sharing, man.
Yeah, dude.
Appreciate
thanks for having me. This was fun. Plus, we got to drink some really good scotch.
Right.
I'm so glad that you have a comfortable place to sit with some mics that are on a boom, so you're not leaning forward the entire time, all uncomfortable. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to have to go to the chiropractor after this or get a massage.
I know. Until I got these chairs, I'm sure a few guys did. Like I said, I only had these plastic fold-up chairs for a while. I finally decided, I probably need a proper table and not just some folding plastic piece of shit with some fold-up chairs.
No, this is a very sweet setup.
Yeah, I've been trying to make upgrades. So I'm toying with the idea. I'm not sure I've actually fully decided, but going video within this next year. So
that changes the whole dynamic.
It does. Yeah. If I'm going to do video, I have no intention of editing anymore. So it'll be kind of just all right, this is it, and upload it, and there it goes.
Yeah.
The great thing is that Spotify has changed to where they do video now. So if you upload a video, then when someone watches it, they get a little window.
Cool.
It's not all just audio anymore. So
nice. Looking forward to that. That'll be good for you.
Yeah. Like I said, I could care less about YouTube. So and Spotify, they don't fuck with anything. It's just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. We'll see. We got pretty deep into some, pretty crazy topics.
We'll see. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted on how it turns out.
We know for certain we've at least pissed off some of the listeners. So
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know. My listener base isn't really that broad, but we'll see.
Hey, if you want to yell at me, I think my Instagram handle is Jiu-Jitsu Grandpa. Pretty easy to remember.
Surprisingly, I have a lot of listeners in Seattle.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Which I thought was weird, but I guess we'll see. Yeah, you can kind of look at that in a couple different ways. Looking for ammunition, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. You never know. Yeah. We'll see after this one releases. See. For sure. Let me know. I will. Thanks again, Eric. Appreciate you. Absolutely. And all you grinders out there, thanks for listening and have a great week. Bye, everybody.